Having fallen into the abyss, I discovered the hidden treasures of an immortal. Once my cultivation reaches perfection, I shall ascend to godhood. Yet I find no joy in this discovery, for I am not only gravely wounded but also on the verge of starvation. Regardless of how many treasures I possess, I am in no state to enjoy them. Just as I was contemplating how to save myself, the flowers in the garden suddenly spoke with human voices. Hey you child, over there. The stone ledge sits a golden jade bottle. The elixir inside is yours to consume. The sudden sound startled me, but at the mention of food, I mustered my remaining strength to follow its guidance and locate the golden bottle. Upon opening it, a medicinal fragrance surged directly into my nostrils. Merely inhaling it banished my hunger instantly. I poured out a pill and consumed it within the minute, and a wave of warmth rapidly flowed through my internal organs. Not only did the sensation of hunger vanish, but I could clearly feel my spirit beginning to recover. What kind of miraculous medicinal pill is this? It is truly wondrous. Furthermore, you must be a legendary flower spirit. One could say that. I saw that you were on the brink of starvation. This is the Immortal pill. Consume one and you will not feel the pangs of hunger for 10 days. My heart brimmed with immense joy. I silently tucked their jade bottle into my robes, then gestured toward the 3 remaining bottles. And what are these? They are various tonics for strengthening one's foundation and treating internal and external injuries, though there is little left of them. Which one treats external injuries? As soon as I heard there was medicine for external wounds, my eyes lit up. The emerald green jade bottle is what you seek. Hearing this, I quickly moved to retrieve it, poured out a vibrant green pill and swallowed it. Not long after, I felt a stream of warmth radiating from my waist, and as my wounds began to heal, my face filled with excitement. I stared fixedly at the objects upon the stone ledge, my gaze burning with intensity. It is truly miraculous. Since you were fated to enter this cave dwelling, these items shall belong to you from this day forth. There are 3 ancient texts on the stone ledge. 2 contain immortal cultivation techniques, while the black scroll is a treasure map. If you are interested, you may cultivate the Ziyuanjue, an immortal technique contained within. Ziyuanjue? I felt a sense of confusion, yet I vaguely understood the significance of the term immortal cultivation. I dimly remembered hearing my grandfather speak of immortals in my youth, beings capable of soaring through the heavens and done traveling across the earth, for whom nothing was impossible. Though I was illiterate, I had been clever since birth, so I pointed toward the dried skeletal remains in the poison vat. Is this person an immortal? He cannot yet be called such. He was merely a cultivator, but the medicinal elixirs found here were all refined by him. If you can become a cultivator, you too will be able to refine these elixirs, just as he did. Do you wish to become a cultivator? It suddenly adopted a gentle coaxing tone. Upon hearing this, my heart stirred with intense excitement, and I felt my pulse quicken far beyond its normal rhythm. If I could become a cultivator, would my grandfather's grudge not finally be avenged? And in the future, I would no longer be bullied. Thinking of this, I spoke up hastily. Then what must I do? I will teach you. You need only follow my instructions. Seeing my agreement, a hint of excitement leaked through its voice. Take out the Zuan manual. I shall instruct you in the ways of cultivation. But I do not know how to read. I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed. Illiterate? That is slightly troublesome, yet it poses no insurmountable problem. Bring those 3 ancient books here. I complied with its request. I stepped forward to retrieve the 3 ancient books and spread them out one by one before the garden. The first book to your right is the Ziyuan Manual. It contains illustrations, and I shall explain the text to you. Follow my words and cross-reference them with the illustrations to practice. I drifted into action, sitting cross-legged as instructed. The mere task of identifying the meridians and acupuncture points on my body consumed several days. Following that, I became bewildered by the complex and arcane methods of cultivation. I was unlettered by nature and had never been exposed to the 8 extraordinary meridians. This left me feeling both exhilarated and agitated, though mostly overwhelmed by a profound sense of confusion, finding it exceedingly difficult to comprehend. Thus, another 7 days passed. After I consumed another Anidia pill, the flower demon spoke with a touch of anxiety. How is it? Have you sensed the flow of chi within your dantian yet? I shook my head, feeling somewhat helpless. Not yet. Flower demon, could it be that I am simply too dull-witted? At that moment I felt a sense of shame, fearing I had squandered the effort it had put into teaching me these past few days. Hearing this, the flower demon sighed helplessly, then suddenly asked, "Check how many Anidia pills remain." I emptied them all out to count. There were 6 pills in total. 6 pills, plus the one you just swallowed. At most, you have only about 70 days remaining. It seems that with your aptitude, attempting to master the first level of the Purple Origin technique in 2.5 months, and breaking through to the first level of the key refining stage, is somewhat impossible. It seemed to have realized that my talent was not particularly impressive. Its voice carried a hint of impatience. I said nothing. For some reason in that moment I felt no more anxiety, leaving only indifference and a numbness toward my own fate. Deep within, a surge of unprecedented strength began to stir, fueled by a hatred for the injustice of the heavens. The stone chamber fell into silence, and I did not speak again. After a long while, the flower demon spoke up. I have one fruit upon my body. Go ahead and pluck it. Remember, you must only take one. Otherwise, given your aptitude, consuming a second will result in nothing but your body exploding from the excess energy. Its voice was filled with pain and reluctance, mingled with a sense of helplessness. I believed its words without a shred of doubt, and promptly plucked the fruit from the top before swallowing it. At first it was not bad, but soon after I felt an unbearable, intense agony erupting from within my body. I let out a scream and collapsed directly to the ground, as it felt as though every vessel in my body was stretching to the point of rupturing. My vision blurred into darkness, and several times I nearly lost consciousness. Yet I gritted my teeth, struggling to maintain a sliver of awareness. After one incense stick of time, the pain finally began to subside. My senses gradually returned to clarity. As a feeling of immense comfort radiated through my body, I discovered a layer of black grime covering my skin. Little one, continue deeper inside. There is an underground river there. Go and wash yourself. Seeing that I had survived, the flower demon felt a measure of relief. I followed its instructions, guided by the sound of flowing water. My mind was clear, and the sensation was truly miraculous. After finding a suitable section of the underground river, I jumped in to wash, discovering that the bruises previously inflicted by Yang Hu had improved significantly. My heart was filled with gratitude toward the flower demon. Once I had scrubbed myself clean, I took extra care to wash my tattered garments as well. Afterward, I returned to stand before the flower demon. Continue your cultivation. You will find the path ahead far easier than before. Hua Yao spoke with complete confidence. As expected, I truly found that practicing the Ziyuan technique became significantly easier thereafter. After 2 more months of arduous training, with only the final pill remaining, I finally succeeded in mastering the first layer of the Ziyuan technique. Brimming with excitement and preparing to share the good news with Hua Yao, I suddenly saw a green orb of light erupt from the garden. Before I could even react, the green orb of light surged forward and embedded itself between my brows. Per hum, I felt a piercing pain between my brows, followed by a descent into a most peculiar dream. In this dream, I had transformed into a black orb of light, no larger than a fist, drifting freely through an ethereal world. Suddenly, a green orb of light charged at me aggressively. It was several times my size, yet its radiance appeared faint and dim. Upon catching sight of the black orb I had become, it paused in momentary shock, as if struck by fear, but it quickly recovered and lunged at me with malice. It began to tear into the black orb that was my form. Refusing to yield, I charged back, retaliating with equal ferocity. Although its body was larger and it quickly enveloped me entirely, the sheer aggression of the orb I had become far surpassed its own, and for a time, neither could gain the upper hand. As time passed, the black orb I had become grew increasingly savage, gradually beginning to gain the advantage. The green orb sensed that the situation was dire. Yet unwilling to surrender, it continued to clash with me. However, after I devoured a portion of the green orb, my strength grew even more formidable. It was impossible to turn back. Realizing it was no match for me, it finally attempted to flee. At that moment, a singular thought dominated my mind. Under no circumstances could I allow it to escape. Driven by my intense will, this ethereal world shifted instantly, and a faint arc of light materialized to bind it completely. Wasting not a single heartbeat, I swiftly devoured it until nothing remained. I know not how much time had passed when I startled awake and slowly opened my eyes. I could sense that my body was utterly exhausted and frail, and my mind was in a state of profound disarray. After a long while, those fragmented images dissipated, and I finally regained my clarity. I recalled the green orb that had emerged from the garden before I lost consciousness, and the scene of our violent struggle and consumption within the dream. Although I could not fathom everything that had transpired, I could be certain that the green orb held no benevolent intentions toward me, and that there was a sinister conspiracy involving Hua Yao. I called out softly, but after waiting for a long time, no one answered. A chill gripped my heart. Rushing toward the garden, I discovered that the flower had withered away at some unknown moment. The remaining 6 black fruits had all shriveled up, leaving behind only dry husks, while the 7 leaves had turned yellow and fallen off, stripped of all their former vibrancy. Yet even after a long while there was still no reply. I suddenly stood up and roared in fury, "Flower spirit! Flower spirit!" But there was no longer any response from the flower spirit within this stone chamber, and I realized then that the green orb of light had, in all likelihood, been the flower spirit itself. At that moment I felt utterly bewildered, perhaps even fearful, but above all I was consumed by rage. How could all of this have come to pass? I had been filled with gratitude and trust toward it, yet, in the end, it had deceived me time and again, always seeking to do me harm. I sat dazed upon the stone bench, lost in thought for a long time. Only after a long while did I rise, my eyes cold and resolute, and began to search the stone chamber once more, meticulously. At the same time, a question weighed on my mind. Although I had successfully cultivated the first level of the Ziyuan Jue, it seemed that, Other than a mysterious flow of energy in my dantian whose purpose remained unknown, my strength had not increased in any significant or tangible way. Does this make me a true cultivator? It is a pity that I am illiterate. With the flower spirit dead, I have no way to continue my cultivation. Once I escape this place, I must prioritize learning how to read. I then instinctively walked toward the skeleton, and the moment my hand brushed against it, it crumbled into dust, vanishing into the air. In the space where it had been sitting, a hidden compartment was revealed, containing a flat white jade and a square box the size of my palm. I held the white jade in my hand, but after examining it for a long time, I could not discern what it was. I then opened the square box, only to discover that it was filled with needles, though they did not appear to be mere embroidery needles. They were significantly thicker than ordinary needles, and their surfaces shimmered with a mysterious, faint light. After searching the area several more times, and finding nothing else, I gathered all the items together. I cast one final look at the withered flower, then made my way toward the entrance of the cave, which had collapsed, and realized that there was no way for me to climb out. I had no choice but to return to the stone chamber and follow the underground river downward. Previously, the flower demon had vaguely mentioned that this underground river flowed toward a gorge. Surely I could find an exit there. Yet, after enduring many hardships, I finally emerged from the mountains, gazing at the clear, cloudless sky. For a fleeting moment, I felt lost, not knowing where to go or what path to take. My original intention was to head straight to town to learn how to read and write, and refrain from returning to Yangzhuang village for the time being. But when I considered the items I was carrying, I realized that if they were discovered by someone with ill intentions, the consequences would be dire. Furthermore, I was penniless. Arriving in town empty-handed would serve no purpose. However, if I were to return to Yangzhuang village after having been missing for over 2 months, it would inevitably invite suspicion, especially that man Yanghu. He would certainly interrogate me relentlessly. If I were already literate, I would stay deep in the mountains, cultivating in silence until I possessed the strength to avenge my grandfather. After much deliberation, I decided to return to Yangzhuang village first. After all, a familiar place is always safer. Waiting until nightfall, I quietly buried my parcel in a desolate spot where no one would notice, then proceeded to return to the village alone. Before I could even approach the dilapidated mud hut, the dog belonging to Yanghu began to bark frantically. Who is there? Hearing the disturbance, Yanghu pushed the door open, stepping out with an axe in his hand. It is me, I spoke in a cold, detached tone. Upon hearing my voice, Yanghu was first stunned, then displayed a look of disdain. So, you are still alive? And, little brat, you are still alive? I thought you had already perished out there. His voice was utterly indifferent. In his eyes, I was not even worth as much as his guard dog. I could not be bothered to utter another word to him, so I simply walked into the crumbling hut and collapsed onto the bed, falling into a deep slumber. Yanghu's eyes blazed with fury, but I had always maintained this cold attitude toward him, and even though he beat and berated me every day, I had never changed. Better that you didn't die. This time, I might be able to squeeze some profit out of you. Yanghu let out a cold snort and turned back into the house. After returning to the village for several days, I acted as I always did, revealing nothing unusual. Yet one night, I secretly brought back my belongings and hid them within the mud hut. It is strange to note that since my return, Yanghu has uncharacteristic. By the 5th day, I had just risen and stepped out of my earthen hut when I encountered a stranger with a menacing appearance. Upon seeing me emerge, Yanghu's fat, bloated face twisted into a grin. Little Yang, come here. Hearing this, my eyelids twitched, yet I remained calm as I stepped into the courtyard. The fierce-looking, thick-necked man scrutinized me from head to toe several times. Yanghu, this brat is too thin. Will he be of any use? Seeing the man's evident displeasure, Yanghu immediately scrambled to flatter him. And Chief Zhao, although this lad is a bit thin, his bones are sturdy and he possesses a fair amount of strength. Very well. Since he has the strength, I will take him. Having said this, the brute gestured toward me, and I stood there, stunned and motionless. Seeing my hesitation, Yanghu produced a document from his robes. With an insincere smile, he said, Little Yang, this is Chief Zhao from Lin County, who has come to our village to hire laborers. I have secured a spot for you, and I have already signed the labor contract on your behalf with Chief Zhao. Go with him. From now on, you shall have a formal occupation, and I will have done right by your deceased grandfather. Hearing this, I felt an urge to rush forward and strike him across the face twice. This Yanghu knew full well that I was illiterate. Even if he played tricks on the paper, I would be none the wiser. What made it even more hateful was that this very man had caused my grandfather's death. Yet he continued to feign innocence and righteousness, truly despicable. I then looked toward the burly man and asked, May I ask, Chief Zhao, what exactly is written on this paper? The man glanced at Yanghu, then spoke coldly. It is indeed a labor contract that Yanghu has signed in your stead. Terms state that you are to come to my Jing mountain mine to extract ore. You will receive 2 taels of silver per month, and after 3 years of service, you will be free to depart. Mining. I had heard of such things. Even during my grandfather's final years, word had spread of recruiters coming from the mines to hire labor in the village. There were even those who had returned from the mines with wealth, allowing them to marry and live a prosperous life. If I could work in the mines for a time and earn silver, acquiring an education would become far easier. Yet deep in my marrow, I could not bring myself to trust Yang Hu. Only after Chief Zhao repeated the terms did I shift from skepticism to half-belief. Having nothing to pack, I bundled up a few sets of coarse cloth garments. After careful deliberation, I decided to tuck the items I had recovered from the stone chamber into my satchel as well. I followed Chief Zhao to the main road outside the village and boarded a horse-drawn carriage waiting there. Upon boarding, I discovered 4 other children already huddled inside. They wore ragged clothes similar to mine, and it was evident they were children of poverty. The carriage traveled for several days until we finally arrived at the mining camp, deep within the mountains. All of you, get down at once, move your curs. Manager Zhao, why are you striking them? Striking them? You were all purchased with my hard-earned silver. Whether I choose to strike or berate you is entirely at my discretion. You 5 are now my mine slaves. If you do not obey me, you deserve whatever fate befalls you, even if it results in death. At that moment, one of the smaller children among them broke into tears and attempted to flee the mining area. Suddenly, a massive man appeared and sent the child flying with a single kick. The child struck the rocky ground violently, convulsing as dark blood seeped from his lips, his fate unknown. The faces of the others turned deathly pale. They stood frozen in place, a flicker of coldness flashing within my eyes. I tightened my fists involuntarily, realizing I had been sold as a mine slave by Yang Hu, and a surge of furious flames ignited within my chest. However, the brutal scene before me served as a reminder that I must not act rashly. For now, I must keep my true feelings concealed. Afterwards, the child was dragged away, while I and the 3 others were taken to a low wooden hut. Inside the hut, there were only 5 wooden plank beds. There was nothing else. Exhausted from the jolting journey on the carriage, and further shaken by the recent horror, the other 3 quickly fell into a deep sleep. I laid down, resting my hands behind my head, but unable to find peace, I rose to sit in a cross-legged position. I practiced the first level of the Yuan's Joy manual once more. Soon my entire body felt refreshed, and the fatigue dissipated. I could vaguely perceive that the strange stream of energy within me had grown slightly stronger, though I remained troubled by my inability to discern its true purpose. As I pondered this, the hut door was shoved open, and a sallow-faced, gaunt youth stepped inside. Stop sleeping. Get up and follow me to collect your tools. The youth roughly hauled the others from their beds, while I took advantage of the distraction to sneakily tuck my belongings under the bed. We then followed the youth to a stone building. Inside, a frail elderly man sat waiting. The youth bowed to the elder before addressing us. This is Elder Wei, the overseer of tools for our Jingshan mine. In the future, should your tools break or require replacement, you need only come to Elder Wei. Having said this, the youth turned to the elder and added, Elder Wei, please provide each of them with a set of tools. Follow me. Thereafter, each of us was issued a crowbar, a stone hammer, and a pickaxe. Lu Song struggled immensely to even hold his tools. Hulai and Zhonggu, however, faced no such difficulties. I had expected to struggle as well, but to my surprise the tools felt remarkably light in my grasp. I immediately feigned exhaustion to avoid suspicion. Yet, in the very next moment, a flicker of something unusual flashed in Elder Wei's eyes. What is your name? Yang Fan. My old limbs are failing me, and my constitution is not what it once was. This boy shall remain here to assist me. Since Elder Wei had spoken, there was naturally no room for objection. Kid, you are truly fortunate. Why are you not yet thanking Elder Wei? Though I did not fully understand what had transpired, I vaguely realized that I would likely no longer need to toil in the mines. I hurriedly followed suit, cupping my hands to express my gratitude to Elder Wei. Soon after, the young man led Hulai and the others away. I stood where I was, feeling somewhat uncertain of what to do next. Meanwhile, Elder Wei continued to observe me with a peculiar gaze. Little Yang, I see that you possess formidable strength, which is why I've kept you here to assist me. However, the work here is by no means light. Today is your first day, so simply familiarize yourself with the surroundings for now. These are the regulations regarding mining equipment for the Xinsan mining area. You must commit them to memory. With that, he tossed a small, worn manual toward me. I reached out to catch it, wearing an expression of slight embarrassment. About that, Elder Literate, it does not matter if you cannot read. As long as you perform your duties well here, I can teach you in time. Many thanks, Elder Wei. Wait, do not be so quick to thank me. There are conditions to me keeping you here. Starting tomorrow, you must run one full circuit around the mining area, within the span of a single hour every day. If you fail to complete the run, you will forfeit both breakfast and lunch for that day. If you can accept these terms, you may stay. If not, you are free to return to the mines. Though I did not understand why he had set such a requirement. I had been accustomed to foraging for herbs on Wulong Mountain since my youth, and I considered myself to have sufficient stamina. Furthermore, I would have the opportunity. Therefore, after a moment of contemplation, I immediately agreed. Afterward, Elder Wei introduced me to several important rules and the specific duties I was expected to fulfill before sitting down in front of the stone house. He closed his eyes, drifting into meditation. At that moment, I could not help but feel a twinge of anxiety. I feared that the parcel I had hidden under the bed might be discovered by those who returned. Thus, I opened my mouth to ask, Elder Wei, where shall I reside from now on? Naturally, within this stone house. There is a bed in the inner chamber. You simply need to tidy it up. Understood, Elder Wei. I shall return to retrieve my belongings, for I can only find peace of mind once I have hidden them beneath my quilt. In the days that followed, I diligently obeyed Elder Wei's instructions, running laps around the mine every single day. A few days later, the man named Zhao Ming suddenly stormed in aggressively. Elder Wei, what is the meaning of this? I spent hard-earned silver to purchase this lad. Whatever amount you spent, I shall repay you, and that will be the end of it. Wei Zheng, others may fear you, but I, Zhao Ming, do not. Elder Wei, what is the meaning of this? I spent hard-earned silver to purchase this lad. Whatever amount you spent, I shall repay you, and that will be the end of it. Wei Zheng, others may fear you, but I, Zhao Ming, do not. At the Wu sect, my nephew is a core disciple of the inner sect, while you are merely an outer sect elder exiled to this mining zone. Do you intend to snatch my mining slave away? That will never happen. Zhao Ming, I have claimed this lad and he remains with me. If you are dissatisfied, summon your nephew and have him come to demand the person himself. Let us see if the weight of an outer sect elder who committed a great offense, like me, is heavier, or if your nephew in the inner sect holds more sway. Zhao Ming had not expected Elder Wei to be so unyielding, and his expression turned incredibly unsightly. Very well, just you wait for me. Zhao Ming turned and departed. Han Li watched all of this, remaining silent throughout. Elder Wei, have I caused you any trouble? This Zhao Ming merely relies on the fact that his nephew possesses talent. Although I am a man serving a sentence, exiled to this place by the sect, that does not mean any common disciple can bully me. I had never heard of any such sect before. The terms outer disciple and elder were both foreign and novel to me, but I did not ask further. I only desired to learn as quickly as possible. On the second day, before the sun had even risen, I left my stone dwelling to begin my run around the mountain. To ensure absolute secrecy and avoid any potential errors, I took advantage of these early morning runs. I had already concealed 3 ancient books and scrolls within several secluded mine shafts outside the excavation zone. The volume currently in my hands was not the Ziyun Jue, but a thick weathered manual titled Compendium of Alchemy. Within its pages were recorded the names and properties of numerous rare medicinal herbs. It also detailed several medicinal prescriptions, along with the precise methods and steps required to refine these elixirs. Furthermore, it provided an introduction to the advantages and disadvantages of both natural spiritual fires and the true fires cultivated by practitioners. Regrettably, my current mastery of the written language is limited, so I could not yet fully comprehend its contents. Nevertheless, I was able to discern the names and effects of the few bottles of medicinal pills I had in my possession. I studied the Compendium of Alchemy with great seriousness for quite some time. Soon after, I arrived at yet another abandoned mine shaft. Here, I had hidden another cultivation technique called the Heaven and Earth Chaos Manual, which differed greatly from the methods of the Ziyun Jue. Based on the level of literacy I have attained, it appears to be a technique focused specifically on tempering the physical body. I held the manual and read, moving very slowly, contemplating every single character with extreme care. Before long, I found myself completely immersed in the profound and mysterious nature of this technique. Without realizing how much time had passed, I sat cross-legged, closed my eyes, and began to practice. When I finally opened my eyes, I was startled to find how late it was. I hurriedly hid the technique away and sprinted back toward my stone dwelling. When I arrived, Old Wei's expression was clearly one of displeasure. You have taken far too long this time. There will not be a next time. Yes, sir. With that, I turned around and began organizing my repair tools. But while I was halfway through, Old Wei suddenly spoke up, interrupting me. Little Yang, how have you felt about the way I have treated you over these past 6 months? Old Wei had, of course, treated me very well. You must find it strange, wondering why I have had you running around the mountain for the past 6 months, correct? I have indeed been somewhat curious. Little Yang, let me be direct with you. I kept you here to assist me, and forced you to spend half a year running around these mountains to strengthen your physique, all because I intended for you to become my medicinal test subject. A medicinal test subject? That is correct. I was once an elder of the Poison Hall within the outer sect of the Wu sect, but because the antidote formula I researched remained flawed, it resulted in the eldest daughter of the Wu sect being disfigured after falling victim to a poison. The sect master sentenced me to death, and it was only thanks to the benevolence and mercy of the eldest daughter that I was allowed to keep my life. Eventually, I was exiled to this place by the sect to undergo penance. For these past few years, I have labored tirelessly, hoping to perfect this antidote. In recent days, I have felt that the formula is nearing completion, But as a man bearing the weight of sin, I cannot depart from these Shinshan mines. Therefore, I must select a test subject from among you miners. You mean for me to be poisoned, and then ingest the antidote you have concocted? That is the general idea, though as this is a trial, I shall not force you to consume the poison directly, but rather you shall be submerged in a bath of toxins. I will regulate the dosage of the poison and the antidote to observe how the toxicity reacts. Rest assured, there will be no danger. If you agree, I shall find a way to have you join my Wu sect and enter the inner circle. If you refuse, you may leave this place at once and return to the mines. But keep in mind that Zhao Ming is likely to vent his frustrations upon you. Hearing this, I immediately understood that Elder Wei's intentions were far from benevolent. In this world, aside from my grandfather, no one is kind to others without a hidden motive. After a moment of reflection, I agreed to Elder Wei's proposal, though I stipulated 2 conditions. First, the submersion in the toxic bath must be conducted here. Second, I desire for Elder Wei to instruct me in martial arts. Elder Wei seemed momentarily surprised, yet in the end he gave his consent. Shortly after, Elder Wei brought forth a large wooden barrel, filled it with clear water, and began adding potent toxins from a pouch. In an instant, the water turned a deep, sickly green and emitted a pungent, foul odor. Without a change in expression, I stripped off my clothes and stepped into the barrel. My skin immediately flared with sharp pain, followed by an unbearable itching sensation, while dark, malevolent chi began to manifest on my face. Elder Wei stood by, watching the changes upon my features with a glint of madness in his eyes. He then poured yet another bag of toxins into the barrel and produced a medicinal pill. This is the antidote. Consume it at once. I hesitated for a fleeting moment before swallowing the pill, and soon the dark aura on my face began to recede, only to return with greater intensity shortly after. Seeing this, a look of dissatisfaction flickered in Elder Wei's eyes, seemingly born of frustration. Get up, we shall conclude the testing for today. Elder Wei, leave this toxic concoction to me. I shall dispose of it in an abandoned mineshaft later. Very well, but be warned, this solution is highly lethal. Even though you have ingested the antidote, residual toxins remain within your body, so I waited until Elder Wei had been gone for quite some time before turning my gaze back to the green poisonous liquid. I stripped off my clothes, sat inside the wooden barrel, and immediately began to circulate the chaos heaven and earth art. An hour later, the toxic liquid in the barrel began to turn into clear water. To avoid discovery by Elder Wei, I intentionally left a small amount of toxins within my body, then put my clothes back on, feeling the changes within me, my heart filled with immense joy. I could sense that my physical form had undergone a subtle transformation compared to before. While my skin still appeared smooth, the inner resilience of my muscles had been greatly enhanced, leaving me once again in awe of the miraculous nature of the chaos heaven and earth art. For the next 2 months, I followed the same routine, secretly using the residual medicinal poisons after each testing session to temper my body. Over these past 2 months, Elder Wei had become extremely satisfied with my cooperative attitude. Consequently, he began to impart some basic martial arts to me, and even taught me a specialized poison technique. I did not realize how time had slipped away until I had spent a full year in the Shinshan mining area. Not only had I learned martial arts, but I had also learned to read. By now, I could read through the Ziyun art and the alchemy miscellany without missing a single character, though the chaos heaven and earth art still remained largely beyond my full comprehension. Furthermore, I had no leads regarding the accompanying magic technique at the end of the Ziyun art. Learning it proved to be far too difficult. However, I have gradually calmed my heart, focusing solely on cultivating the ice arrow technique contained within it. Since cultivating the chaos heaven and earth art and the Ziyun art simultaneously resulted in agonizingly slow progress, I could clearly sense that I was still a long way from reaching the 3rd level of chi refining. Thus, I devoted more time to cultivating the Ziyun art exclusively. As long as I reached the 3rd level of chi refining, I would be able to consume the 8 treasure pill. Late at night, I snuck into the abandoned mine tunnel, clutching the alchemy miscellany, my eyes burning with intensity. Now that I could decipher every word in this alchemy manual without omission, I learned that the flower from the cave dwelling that day was known as the 9-leaf sunset fruit, a type of immortal herb far more precious than any common medicinal material in the cultivation world. A mere mortal who consumes a few of its leaves could undergo a complete rebirth of their physical constitution, while a cultivator who consumes it would not only increase their cultivation base, but also significantly harden their body. This revelation made me yearn to return to that cave immediately. For the manual recorded quite clearly that even if this herb were withered, as long as the root remained alive, it could be replanted to bloom and bear fruit once more, and I had long since desired to leave this Jinshan mining area. Yet, after multiple observations, I discovered that the only exit leading to the outside world was the path I had taken to arrive here. Furthermore, that singular exit was guarded by more than 10 outer sect experts of the Wu sect. Relying solely on my current 2nd level chi refining magic power, I lacked the confidence to escape. This forced me to seek an alternative solution, and so I retrieved the white jade pendant and the square box from a different crevice in the rocks. Although I had scoured several cultivation manuals and the Black Scroll, I found no introduction or explanation regarding the jade pendant or the small golden needle. Although I suspected this tiny needle was a form of hidden weapon, it was a pity that Elder Wei would sooner die than impart his specialized techniques to me. He claimed the hidden weapon was a sect-defending treasure of the Vu sect's inner circle, and could not be taught to those outside of it. I examined the white jade pendant over and over, even considering biting it to see if it was real, yet I could not find a single clue. I intended to smash it with a stone to see what lay inside, but I feared that doing so would only lead to regret. In the end, I had no choice but to helplessly hide the jade pendant and the tiny needle before quickly heading toward the stone house. I had traveled only halfway when I could hear the sounds of shouting and combat from afar. At the sight of this, I was startled. Taking advantage of the moonlight, I stealthily moved toward the scene. Upon drawing near, I saw Elder Wei locked in combat with a masked man dressed in blue. Seeing that Elder Wei was on the verge of defeat, a cold glint suddenly flashed. From his mouth, several rays of icy light shot forth, aimed directly at the blue-clad man's eyes. A series of sparks erupted at the blue-clad man, drawing a hook-shaped iron weapon, intercepted Elder Wei's hidden projectile. To my astonishment, I discovered that I could clearly perceive every movement Elder Wei made. Overjoyed, I immediately began to replicate the hidden weapon technique he had just used within my own mind. Fengshu, you are truly bold to dare infiltrate the territory of my Vu sect. Tonight I shall ensure you meet a death without a burial place. Elder Wei seemed to have recognized the masked man. After speaking, he waved his hand, and another volley of cold light erupted. The blue-clad man did not reply, merely swinging his iron hook repeatedly to deflect the projectiles before stepping forward to strike directly at Elder Wei's head. Seeing this, Elder Wei let out a thunderous shout, "Fengshu, go to your death!" The blue-clad man scrambled to evade, but in the desperation of the moment, a long bloody gash was sliced across his face. "Damn it, it's poisoned!" The blue-clad man cursed under his breath, his figure darting rapidly into the mountains, vanishing into the moonlight in an instant. At that very moment, two men rushed out from the direction of the mining zone. "Elder Wei, what has happened here?" "It is Fengshu from the Fatesui Pavilion. He managed to bypass you all and sneak in here. I have already wounded him, and he has been struck by my poison. He will not be able to get far. Gao, Jia, you and the others are to head into the mountains once. Do not leave a single survivor." The old man who had arrived finished speaking and gestured with his hand. The thin man accompanying him immediately set off into the mountains, while I held my breath, hiding in the shadows. I waited until Elder Wei had entered the stone house before I cautiously slipped away. If that blue-clad man named Fengshu were to hide in the mine where I kept my stash, it would be disastrous. Thinking of this, I was struck with panic and bolted toward the mining cave as fast as my feet could carry me. A short while later, I reached the entrance of the cave where I hid my belongings. Before I even stepped inside, I could hear faint voices coming from within. I carefully concealed myself outside the cave entrance, focusing all my attention on listening. "Shu, you truly are becoming more useless by the day. You couldn't even kill an old man with one foot in the grave, yet you dare to boast at the Fatesui Pavilion." Upon hearing this voice, I could not help but shudder. Is this not the very same old man who had just met with Elder Wei? Why is he here? "Jiahuo, do you even have the audacity to speak to me? Did you not say that Wei Jing still had residual poison in his body, and that his cultivation power was far from what it used to be? Yet the strike he just unleashed showed no signs of a waning cultivation base. If I had not been on my guard, I fear I would be a dead man by now." It panted heavily, his tone filled with resentment. Upon hearing this, Jiahuo let out a cold snort. That Wei Jing caused the eldest miss to be disfigured, and consumed by shame he ingested poison himself, hoping to concoct the perfect antidote. Everyone within the U sect knows of this. Furthermore, the antidote I gave you to consume just now will purge all the poison from your system in less than a day, so there is no need for concern. Hearing this, Fengshu finally began to calm down. "Then, what about the promised reward? If you can kill Wei Jing within 3 days, the reward shall be doubled. This matter cannot be delayed any longer. Over the past few months, Wei Jing has somehow managed to find a mind slave to test his elixirs. It is said that he has already perfected the antidote. If news of this reaches the U sect and the sect master finds out, Wei Jing will surely make a comeback. By then, the poison hall of the outer sect will fall back into his hands. Therefore, you have at most 3 days. If you fail, someone else will take your place. Let us go." Jiahuo spoke coldly before walking toward the cave entrance. Seeing this, I had no choice but to retreat and hide. Once Jiahuo led the skinny man away, I stared at the cave entrance with deep anxiety. What was meant to happen has arrived. Truly, this is nothing but bad luck. This fellow actually walked straight into the cave where I hid my belongings. Fortunately, I am very familiar with the interior and know of an ideal hiding spot. I then made my way in, praying the entire time that the opponent would not discover the items I had stashed. Ever since practicing the Ziyun art, my body has become increasingly light, allowing me to move without making a single. Peering through the crevice, I saw that Fengshu had removed his veil, revealing his true face. He appeared to be over 50 years of age, with a terrifying scar running down his right cheek, clearly the lingering mark of the hidden weapons used by Elder Wei. His complexion was ghastly pale. It seemed the remaining poison had not yet been purged from his system. Suddenly, a clattering sound echoed through the cave, followed by a flash of white light. A jade slip. Feng Shu's voice was filled with disbelief, his speech stuttering and erratic. He had merely kicked at some loose rubble, never expecting to strike a stone and uncover a white jade pendant. Seeing this, my heart sank. Just as I prepared to throw caution to the wind and charge out, he spoke of a jade slip and froze in place. A jade slip. Could it be that this man knows what this is? Through the gap, I saw Feng Shu's hands trembling with intense agitation, and then he reached down to retrieve the jade piece. He hesitated for a moment before pressing it against his forehead, and my mind reeled at the sight. My heart raced with excitement. So, it must be activated by placing it against the forehead? Is this truly an artifact of the Immortal Masters? An artifact of the Immortal Masters. Never did I imagine that I, Feng Shu, would find such fortune in my twilight years. Feng Shu erupted into a fit of maniacal laughter before tears welled in his eyes, clutching the jade slip while alternating between weeping and laughing. His erratic behavior left me momentarily stunned, but how could I allow such an object to fall into his hands? Regardless of his reputation as a martial arts expert, I would charge in and seize it by force. I lunged forward with a ferocious black tiger steals the heart strike. Alas, Feng Shu had spent many years carving his path through the pugilistic world. Sensing the sneak attack, he was startled but reacted with lightning speed. His body pivoted and he lashed out with a kick. A cold glint flashed in my eyes, and I met his strike head-on with a powerful punch. A jolt of numbness instantly traveled up my fist. I leaped backward, swiftly retrieving the square box I had hidden among another pile of rocks. Although Feng Shu had taken an antidote, the remaining poison was still coursing through him. Forcing his internal energy caused the toxin to flare up violently. "Who are you?" Ignoring his question, I silently withdrew a handful of small needles from the box. Mimicking the technique I had witnessed Elder Wei use earlier, I flicked my wrist and hurled the needles forward. Though Feng Shu could not see my face clearly, he noticed the motion of my hand and instinctively recoiled in caution. Damn it. Feng suddenly felt a sharp, piercing pain in his leg, as if something had struck him with great force. No longer daring to circulate his internal energy, he abandoned all thoughts of confrontation and fled directly out of the cave. However, he had not fled far before his legs suddenly turned to jelly. He collapsed to the ground, cold sweat drenching his forehead. Seeing Feng Hu suddenly fall, I seized the opportunity to unleash a handful of small needles. This time, more than half of the needles pierced straight into his back. I then picked up a jagged stone and hurled it violently at the nape of his neck. With a sickening thud, Feng Hu died a wretched death at my hands. Since this was my first time taking a life, my stomach churned violently, and it took a long while for me to compose myself. Once I had steadied my nerves, I stepped forward to pick up the jade slip and pressed it to my forehead. Instantly, an influx of countless characters flooded my mind, causing waves of dizziness. It was, in truth, an immense volume of information. I stood rooted to the spot for a long time, finally grasping the nature of this so-called jade slip. Within it lay a profound formation known as the Taishuan Light Guiding Formation. As for the square box, it was a set of pinnacle Dharma treasures called the Flying Fire Meteor, and the needles within were known as Flying Fire Needles. There were 360 of them in total. Once spiritual energy is infused into the Flying Fire Needles, they can manifest the Taishuan Light Guiding Formation, and through the manipulation of spiritual sense, they can be utilized as both highly lethal restraining and killing formations. Although I had never heard of a formation-based Dharma treasure before, combined with the information I had just acquired, I deduced that this was, in all likelihood, the armament of a true cultivator. That I had previously treated it as nothing more than ordinary hidden weaponry. Looking back on it now, it is truly laughable. Furthermore, from the jade slip, I learned that spiritual sense is likely the special manifestation of the consciousness I have felt growing stronger within me. It is a pity that there is still so much I do not understand. If only I could be accepted into a cultivation sect, that would be ideal. But for now I must quickly recover the Flying Fire Needles. The method for retrieving them is quite simple, for the square box itself is an auxiliary Dharma treasure called the Meteor Box. By simply pouring spiritual energy into it, the Meteor Box immediately pulsed with a crimson light. Following that, the Flying Fire Needles scattered throughout the mine, including those embedded in Feng Hu's body, automatically flew back into the Meteor Box. I immediately took one out, infused it with spiritual energy, and using the hidden weapon techniques taught to me by Elder Fee, I launched the needle with great force. A flash of black light streaked across the air, and the Flying Fire Needle vanished instantly into the solid rock wall. Spiritual energy, techniques, and Dharma treasures. At this moment, I had begun to comprehend a few things. I reflected in silence for a long time before using the Meteor Box to retrieve the needle. Next, I attempted to form the Taishuan Light Guiding Formation, but alas, I failed. It seems that because my current cultivation level is too low, Both my spiritual sense and spiritual energy remained far too weak. I could not even manipulate the minimum requirement of 36 flying fire needles for the Taishuan light guiding array. But I vaguely felt that this was not merely a matter of spiritual power or divine sense. I sensed something was missing, yet after pondering for a long time, I found no clues. Since I could not fathom it, I decided not to waste any more effort. Furthermore, tonight's harvest was substantial enough to be absolutely delighted with. Now that I no longer needed to worry about my own lack of strength, I retrieved all the items I had hidden in various mine shafts. By the time I finished these tasks, it was nearly dawn. Regarding today's events, I decided to remain silent for the time being. I only needed to cultivate for a while longer, and once my cultivation reached the 3rd level of chi refining, I would leave this place, no matter the cost. As for Old Wei, he never harbored any good intentions toward me, although he did indeed show me some kindness. Fulfilling my promise to test his poisons was more than enough to repay that debt. Had I not possessed the heart-cleansing pill, the residual toxins from those tests would have long since destroyed my body. It just so happens that I am practicing the Chaos Heaven and Earth art, allowing these poisonous substances to be absorbed to temper my physical body, which could be considered a blessing in disguise. Thereafter, everything returned to its routine. Every night I slipped into the remote forest to tirelessly repeat my practice of artifact refinement techniques. Old Wei also began to demand that I test his poisons less frequently. A month passed in this manner, and Old Wei announced that the poison testing had concluded. Yet on the very second night after the tests ended, Old Wei was assassinated by unknown individuals. This time there were 2 attackers. Overwhelmed by the odds, Old Wei was forced to use his lethal poison arts to repel them, but he himself was left severely wounded. Nevertheless, I chose not to intervene or assist. Beyond avenging my grandfather and pursuing the path of immortality, I have no interest in anything else. The next day, I stood before Old Wei's bedside. Old Wei looked listless, half reclining on his bed. "Little Yang, I gave you my word. Because you tested the poisons for me, I shall ensure your entry into the inner sect of the Wu Gate. Take these 2 letters to the Wu Gate and seek out the eldest young lady Wu Qingxuan. Once she reads them, she will accept you into the sect." After receiving the letters, I remained silent, offering no response. Having been handed 2 letters, the old man surely had. After a moment of silence, Elder Wei gave a bitter laugh and spoke. "You child, sometimes I truly cannot fathom you. Despite your young age, I do not know from whom you learned such profound cunning. Elder Wei, since you have a request, pray speak plainly. If it is with my power, I shall not refuse, and it shall be considered a settlement of the debt I owe you." I uttered these words with complete composure. Hearing this, Elder Wei was taken aback for a moment, the bitterness on his face deepening. "Little Yang, take these 2 letters. One is my guarantee for your entry into the Wu sect, and the other is a medicinal formula for detoxification. First, present the letter of guarantee to the eldest young miss. Should the Wu sect refuse to accept you, then as for this letter containing the detoxifying formula, you need not deliver it." Hearing this, a strange light flickered in my eyes. "Little Yang, your natural talent is not poor. Had I not been poisoned and critically wounded by those assassins, I would have intended to take you as my disciple. Regrettably, I had long foreseen that this day would come." As he spoke, he produced a thick, heavy tome. "My life's research into the art of poisons is contained entirely within this manual. If you have interest, you may study it. If not, then help me find a successor to whom I may pass it on." With complex emotions, I accepted the poison manual and nodded. "If the opportunity arises, I will certainly help you find a suitable successor." Elder Wei smiled at these words and closed his eyes. I bowed deeply, then turned and stepped out of the stone chamber. I knew others would arrive to handle the funeral arrangements, but before leaving the Qingshan mine, I naturally had to settle the score with that man, Zhao Ming. After tidying my belongings, I headed toward the active mining tunnels. The Qingshan mine is one of the properties of the Wu sect, providing a massive quantity of iron ore annually for the forging of their hidden weapons. Over the past few days, I had already gathered clear information. That man, Zhao Ming, was originally a bandit from the underworld, but his nephew Zhao Ju possesses extraordinary martial talent, having caught the eye of a high-ranking elder within the Wu sect. Relying on Zhao Ju's reputation, Zhao Ming ascended in a single bound to become one of the figures with real authority at the Qingshan mine. Presently, he has over 100 miners under his command, and by exploiting these slave laborers, he has lined his pockets with great wealth. I walked past each of the active mining tunnels, seeing the miners within, sweat pouring like rain, their faces smeared with grime. Thinking of how many here have shed such blood, sweat, and tears, yet he did not even receive half a copper coin, unable to stop himself from sensing the cruelty and the indifference of fate once more. Had I not been pushed off the cliff by Yang Hu and stumbled into the caverned dwelling of that immortal cultivator, I would be just like one of these people, or perhaps even in a more wretched state than they. At this moment, an angry shout suddenly erupted from within a mineshaft. Daring to slack off? I will beat you to death. This was followed by the sharp crack of a whip, and a "Please, sir, please, no more." Hearing someone begging for mercy, I followed the sound. When I clearly saw the person who had been struck to the ground, my gaze instinctively hardened. My gaze could not help but linger. The person before me was none other than Meng Ran, the one who had been brought to this Kingshish mine alongside me that day. I clearly remember that day when he attempted to flee, only to be kicked in the stomach by a burly man, coughing up blood and left teetering on the edge of life and death. More than a year later, the once timid Meng Ran, who once had a glimmer of hope in his eyes, was now nothing but skin and bones, his eyes dimmed like dying embers, resembling a beggar. The only person beside him daring to plead for him was Hu Lai, the eldest of the 5 men from that time. I vaguely remember that on the journey to Kingshan Mine, inside that cramped carriage, it was Hu Lai's stories and jokes, the origins of which no one knew, that helped everyone pass the tedious time. Back then, they were all naive enough to think they had come to mine for wealth, never realizing they had long since been sold into slavery. As for that bald man wielding the whip, I recognized him as well. His name is Li Kei, a lackey under Zhao Ming. Seeing Hu Lai dare to intercede, Lick let out a sinister laugh and brought his whip down heavily upon him. Hu Lai let out a miserable shriek, his eyes erupting with unconcealed fury, yet he was utterly powerless to do anything. I stepped forward to help Meng Ran up, but to my surprise, Hu Lai suddenly rushed over to shove me away and pull Meng Ran to the side. I was stunned for a moment, but upon seeing the expressions of Hu Lai and Meng Ran, I began to understand. In the eyes of these two there was a clear hostility toward me, yet it was not the depth of a mortal blood feud, but rather a resentment against an unfair fate. I too have worn such a look, so it was not foreign to me. Seeing my arrival, Li Kei asked with a hint of surprise, "What are you doing here? I have no patience for idle talk. State your purpose and lead me to Zhao Ming immediately. You wish to meet Master Zhao? Do you truly believe a man like him is at your beck and call? Do not forget, you are nothing more than a mining slave under Master Zhao's command." The onlookers were confused, unable to grasp the situation, for there was no one beside him to usher me to Master Zhao, and failing that meant certain death. I remained expressionless, clutching another flying needle, prepared to unleash it at a moment's notice. Moments prior, I had silently released one, piercing directly into the only sound leg of Li Kei. This flying needle was infused with spiritual power. Such a refined assassination technique is far beyond the defenses of mere thugs like these. Though I am still young, I have long since experienced the cruelty and indifference of this world, and as such, I have learned to harden my heart and mastered the art of ruthlessness. The arrogance once etched onto Li's face began to fade, replaced by a mask of terror. Only he could fathom the agony currently radiating from his leg. Something had driven itself deep into the bone, causing pain so unbearable it defied description. Extract this needle at once, and I will lead you there immediately. Drenched in cold sweat from the torment, Leek collapsed to the ground, begging pitifully. Observing this, I produced my meteor box and retrieved the flying needle from his flesh. Feeling the sharpest edge of the pain subside, Leek had dared not utter another word of nonsense and limped forward to lead the way. Upon entering a refined courtyard, I beheld Zhao Ming gorging himself on food. His thick, bearded face was smeared with grease, a truly nauseating sight. Even more repulsive was how he forced a maidservant to feed him, before leering with a sinister grin and biting down on her finger. Thinking of the miners who bled, the laborers who poured out their sweat day and night in grueling toil, only for this man to indulge in such excess, ignited a sudden surge of fury within me. I was tempted to unleash a needle and end his life right there. Leek, what do you think you are doing? Can't you see I am in the middle of a meal? Upon seeing Li Kei, Zhao Ming immediately began to bark his insults. Li Kei had no choice but to step aside. Only then did Zhao Ming turn his gaze toward me. "It is you. What have you come here for?" I spoke with a cold, expressionless face. "By what right do you expect me to return it? I spent real gold and silver for this. You cannot even reclaim the Wei painting from my grasp. A brat whose hair has barely grown. What makes you think you are entitled to anything? Then there is no need for further words." My expression remained impassive. I swept my hands upward, and a flash of light erupted. Before Li Kei behind him could even utter a sound, several flying needles pierced his glabella. He collapsed instantly, his breath extinguished. Zhao Ming's expression shifted violently. He slammed his hand against the table and hurled it toward me. I did not move a muscle, allowing the table to strike me directly. With a loud crash, the table shattered into fragments. Wood shards flew in every direction, yet I remained completely unscathed. I then lightly brushed away a splinter, waved my hand, and several flying needles tore through the air, striking directly into the glabella of Zhao Ming. Zhao Ming's pupils contracted. Just as he attempted to dodge, his glabella was pierced, and he fell to the ground with a thud, dead. The terrified woman screamed and fled into the courtyard, while I meticulously searched every room. After a long effort, I finally had a thick stack of contracts inside a locked iron chest. I found the document signed by Yang Hu, noting the price of 50 taels of silver and a lifetime term of servitude. I let out a cold laugh, hoisted the iron chest, and returned to the mining cave, tossing it directly into the midst of the crowd. After a moment of silence, someone finally stepped forward and whispered that they were literate. These are the contracts of your lifetime indentured servitude to Zhao Ming. Help me identify each person one by one so they may settle their own accounts. Just as I turned to leave, someone suddenly shouted, "By stealing these contracts, you intend to get us all killed." Hearing this, I paused and cast a chilling gaze in his direction. The intensity caused him to shiver, and he nearly collapsed to the ground in terror. Zhao Ming is dead. As my words landed, the crowd fell deathly silent, before suddenly erupting into cheers that had been suppressed for far too long. But at that moment, an old man leading a group of men arrived, radiating killing intent. As they drew closer, I recognized the man in the lead, Jiahua. Jiahua's gaze was as cold as ice. He had been occupied with the funeral arrangements for Wei Zheng. Suddenly receiving news that Zhao Ming had been killed by a mere youth, he had initially refused to believe it, but upon seeing me he realized the truth. He could not help but believe it. It was you who killed Zhao Ming. As Jiahua finished speaking, a sinister glint flickered in his aged eyes. Having already made my resolve before acting, I had no intention of indulging in idle chatter, and unleashed the flying fire needles directly. Jia and his companions were stunned. They had not expected me to be so decisive. With a crisp, sharp sound, Jiahua's figure flickered as he drew his longsword to deflect the needles, leaving only a shallow cut upon his shoulder. Seeing this, my heart tightened. I immediately understood that this Jiahua would not be easy to deal with. Jiahua, for his part, had been startled by the sheer speed of those needles. His face flushed a deep crimson and he barked in fury. "Wei Zheng, you dare. To think you would pass down internal sect assassination techniques to the likes of you. You truly deserve death." As he spoke, he swung his longsword toward me, while his companions scattered rapidly to encircle me. This caused my heart to race uncontrollably. Suddenly confronted with such a dire situation, and lacking any combat experience, my palms grew slick with sweat. Seeing Jiahua's sword lunging forward, I instinctively leaped backward, only to suddenly feel a chilling sensation behind me. With no time to contemplate, I curled my body and rolled across the ground, narrowly evading an attack from behind. It was fortunate that Old Wei had taught me basic martial arts and movement techniques, combined with my unique ability to sense the surroundings through my divine sense. Otherwise, I would have been struck down on the spot. Every thought flickered in an instant, and my mind gradually stilled. I drew several more flash needles, infused them with my spiritual energy, and launched them in all directions. Moments later, another wave followed in quick succession. A series of shrill screams echoed out. Those who had evaded the first volley were struck by the second wave of flying fire needles. The miners nearby were all left in a state of shock. None of them could have imagined that the scrawny, seemingly harmless youth would be able to contest these experts from the Wu Gate without falling into a disadvantage. Jiahu was incensed, yet he could not fathom the nature of the concealed weapons in my hands. He found them incredibly bizarre, and their speed was far too great. He could not comprehend how a youth of barely over 10 years could possess such an abundant amount of internal energy within his body. At that very moment, one of his companions fell to the ground, his brow pierced through by my needle. However, the toll on my own strength was significant. I was keenly aware that the spiritual energy within me was finite. If I continued to exhaust it so recklessly, I feared I would run dry before I could ever hope to slay Jiahua. I slowly calmed my breathing, staring at Jiahua with the cold, predatory focus of a hawk, while using my divine sense to monitor the space around me. With every rustle of grass within a 3-zhang radius, I ceased relying on my spiritual power, and instead depended on the concealed weapon techniques I had secretly learned from Elder Wei. I launched my flying needles directly toward the space between the brows of those men. Jiahua let out a roar as his longsword suddenly left his hand, thrusting toward my heart with terrifying speed. I could only twist my body to evade, but this time the speed was simply too great. As I turned, the longsword grazed my chest, drawing a spray of blood that trailed into the distance. An immediate searing pain radiated from my chest. I narrowed my eyes, a cold light flashing within them. I drew out 11 flying fire needles at once. Channeling all my spiritual power, I calmed my mind and released them using the techniques of a master of concealed weapons. It was clearly more methodical than my previous attempts. Simultaneously, I manipulated the trajectory of these needles. 5 of them followed one another in perfect succession. Each needle followed the path of the last, striking toward Jiahua. The remaining 5 were aimed at the men who had just managed to dodge my first wave of attacks. The final needle remained in reserve, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The cultivation of the others was clearly inferior to Jiahua's. They were struck between the brows by the high-speed needles, and perished almost instantaneously. Jiahua retreated again and again, barely managing to evade 4 of the needles by exhausting his spiritual power and using his ultimate techniques. Just as he narrowly avoided the danger, and reluctantly dodged the 5th needle, his vision suddenly blurred, and a needle he had not noticed appeared from nowhere. It instantly pierced through the center of his forehead. His body went limp. He collapsed to the ground, unable to rise. Looking at the corpses scattered all around, My mind felt somewhat dazed. Afterward, I retrieved all my flying needles. Just as I prepared to flee into the forest to hide, I suddenly saw two disheveled figures walking toward me. They were none other than Hulai and Meng Ran. Brother Yang, thank you. We misunderstood you before. Hulai spoke in a low voice, a flicker of shame visible in his eyes. Meng Ran parted her lips, but could not utter a single word. I looked at the two of them and suddenly asked, "Where are Zhonggu and Lu Song?" Lu Song. Regarding this matter, my expression remained quite composed, but concerning the fact that Lu Song had escaped, I felt perplexed as that exit was guarded by at least 6 or 7 experts. How could this Lu Song possibly have managed to flee? Afterward, I took out a portion of the silver I had previously recovered from Zhao Ming and divided it between the two of them. The guards at the mine exit will be arriving here momentarily. We must find a way to escape. At this very moment, the miners suddenly began, one by one, to surge toward the exit with agitated emotions, which caused my eyes to brighten. I hastily spoke to Hula and his companion. "Move quickly, follow them and charge out." I had originally intended to slip into the forest to find a place to hide, to wait until my magical power recovered before making my move. But seeing so many people rushing toward the mine exit and looking up to see the sky had already darkened, I knew this was an excellent opportunity. Without a moment's hesitation, I merged into the crowd, practically being propelled forward by the momentum of the others. "Stop where you are. What do you think you are doing? Get back, all of you, or answer to me." At the mine exit, a one-eyed man raised his crossbow and shouted loudly at the crowd. The miners, burning with fervor, only grew more incensed upon hearing his insults. Seeing the exit right before their eyes, there was no holding back. The crowd did not stop, but instead surged toward the exit even more frantically. "So you want to die? Then I shall grant your wish." That one-eyed man fired his crossbow directly. Bolts flew in rapid succession, and several miners in the lead collapsed to the ground, twitching incessantly, but one person shouted, "He cannot stop all of us. Charge together." Just then, in the midst of the crowd, someone whose identity I did not know yelled out, and in the ensuing chaos, they threw a hidden weapon directly at the one-eyed man. The remaining sound eye of the one-eyed brute suddenly throbbed with agony. He dropped his repeating crossbow, clutching his face with both hands and wailing in misery. The miners, emboldened, continued to surge forward, and very quickly broke through the barricade to reach the main road. Afterward, I trekked through the mountain forests for a very long time, and only when I was certain there were no pursuers did I heave a sigh of relief. I searched for a secluded location. Once my spiritual energy was fully restored, I did not rush to depart, choosing instead to continue my cultivation for another half-month. Only then did I emerge from the deep mountains, following the main road toward the Wulong mountain range. After traveling for over half a month, I finally arrived at Banshi town, located at the foot of the Wulong mountains. This town is under the jurisdiction of my home village, Yangzhuang, yet I discovered that a bounty order for my capture had been posted here as well, a discovery that immediately put me on high alert. If Yang Hu were to learn of this, how would he react? I let out a cold snort to myself. Choosing to ignore Yang Hu for the time being, I purchased some dry rations and prepared to venture into the Wulong mountains once night fell. Relying on my memory, I returned to the hidden mountain cave. Everything within the cave remained unchanged, save for the 7-leaf flower herb, which had completely withered. In the mountains, time loses its meaning, and I remained detached from the affairs of the world. Single-mindedly focused on my training, I replanted the roots of the 9-leaf moyang fruit into the restored nursery, tending to it carefully each day, while dedicating all remaining time to cultivating the Ziyuan technique. One day, while midway through my session, I suddenly opened my eyes. I had been trapped at the peak of the second layer of qi refining for over a month, and no matter how hard I tried, I could not break through to the third layer. It seemed that continuing to cultivate in this manner yielded negligible results. The records of alchemy clearly state that one must reach the third layer of qi refining before consuming a Bajan pill, otherwise one risks their body exploding from the power. Yet here I remained, stuck at the peak of the second layer, unable to make the slightest bit of progress. I was surely agonizingly close to the third layer. Perhaps by taking a risk and consuming one pill, I might find the breakthrough I so desperately sought. As the medicinal energy entered my body, a massive surge of spiritual essence erupted, instantly rupturing several meridians within me. I hastily consumed a Yangyuan pill, but the situation only worsened as blood began to trickle from the corners of my mouth. In this critical moment, I chose to gamble, immediately switching to circulate the Chaos Heaven and Earth technique. As the technique took hold, the look of agony on my face subsided, and black impurities began to ooze from the pores of my skin. Not knowing how much time had passed, I resumed practicing the Ziyuan technique. My aura suddenly surged, and unexpectedly, I smoothly broke through the bottleneck, attaining the third layer of qi refining. At this moment, I could clearly feel that my hearing, vision, and sense of smell had all been significantly heightened. Whether my eyes were open or closed, I could perceive every rustle of the grass and every shift of the wind within a radius of 10 jang. Afterward, I leaped into an underground river to cleanse the filth from my body. My skin felt purified, and my entire being was invigorated and clear. Beyond the increase of spiritual energy within my dantian, there seemed to be a surging, latent power hidden within the muscles of my arms and legs. This clear transformation, felt only after stepping into the third layer of chi refining, finally convinced me that I was a true cultivator. After stabilizing my cultivation for half a month, I approached the nursery. The 9-leaf moyang fruit had turned a deep emerald green, sprouting a small dark green leaf, with a tiny flower bud at its base. I watered it with care, my eyes burning with anticipation before returning to the stone bed. I withdrew the black scroll to study it further. The material from which this black scroll was crafted remained a mystery, but it bore an incredibly complex topographical depiction, which was the very treasure map the flower demon had spoken of previously. The final destination of the route seemed to lie upon the water. What manner of treasure could possibly await at the end of this map? I stored the scroll away, and brought out the Z1 manual to begin researching the accompanying techniques. Very quickly I realized why my previous attempts to master the Taishuan light guiding array had failed. It was highly probable that I lacked this specific technique. Filled with excitement, I sat cross-legged, produced a flying fire needle, infused it with spiritual power, and began to practice according to the manual's instructions. A month later, with a slight twitch of my finger, the flying fire needle before me darted back and forth with agility. I'd finally mastered it. The first skill I had acquired was the object manipulation technique. Once one principle is understood, all others follow, and I proceeded to successfully master the Heaven's Eye technique and the concealment technique. I attempted to control multiple flying fire needles simultaneously. I reached 12, but I was immediately overcome by a wave of dizziness. It appeared that with my current level of cultivation, 12 was the maximum number of needles I could control at once. Afterwards, I plucked the new leaf of the 9-leaf moyang fruit and the half-bloomed flower bud to consume, subsequently circulating the heaven and earth chaos art. Once fully absorbed, I could sense that the strength within my muscles had grown significantly once more. By the time I left this stone chamber, a year and a half had passed in cultivation. My harvests during this time were immense, yet the number of lingering questions only continued to grow. I knew full well that relying solely on my own strength was beginning to feel insufficient, and there were so many surrogate under a cultivation sect capable of clearing my doubts. How beneficial that would be. After much deliberation, I ultimately decided it was time to depart. Once I had exited Wulong Mountain, I headed straight for Yang Village. At long last, I would be able to avenge my grandfather. Having been gone for 3 years, Yang Village appeared to have remained unchanged. Ever since grandfather passed, I could no longer feel a trace of warmth here. I did not wish to draw attention to myself, so I waited until nightfall to silently enter the familiar courtyard. As I entered the earthen courtyard, the dog belonging to Yang Hu began to bark, so I struck it down with a single kick. It did not even have time to whimper before it lay motionless upon the ground. I arrived outside the window of Yang Hu's house, where Yang Hu's son was busy selecting the choicest cuts of meat. Yang Hu's wife stood by, her face drained of all color. Yang Hu himself had grown increasingly obese with each passing day. I watched Yang Hu's son, and for a fleeting moment, the flying needle in my hand faltered. But immediately thereafter, the memory of how he had secretly orchestrated my master's demise resurfaced in my mind. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. The flying needle glided silently through the window, piercing straight into Yang Hu's heart. Simultaneously, I clenched my hand, causing the needle embedded within his heart to rotate and pulverize his vital organs before I flicked my wrist to retrieve it. Yang Hu suddenly looked toward the window, his face contorted in shock and terror, and before he could utter a single word, he collapsed, dead from the internal trauma. I had always thought that if I ever gained the power to seek vengeance, I would surely humiliate and torment him before his very eyes. Yet, as that day finally arrived, I realized that those former grievances now seemed utterly insignificant. I could not even be bothered to show my face to him. Sounds of panic screams and the crash of furniture erupted from within the room. I turned away silently and departed from that place. I then made my way to my master's grave on the outskirts of the village. After bowing in respect several times, I vanished into the dim, ethereal moonlight. I had made my decision. I would seek out a cultivation sect and embark upon the true path of immortality. Every day I bathed in a barrel of toxic decoction, containing not only massive quantities of sulfur, saltpeter, and celestial minerals, but also the gold cicada 5 poison essence. An ordinary man would have had his soul scattered to the winds within 3 seconds of contact, yet I found the sensation of soaking in it to be profoundly invigorating. This was because I had fortuitously obtained an immortal secret treasure, the Chaos Heaven and Earth Art. Every time I immersed myself in the concoction, I was able to absorb its lethal toxicity, using it to forge and refine my physical body. Relying on this ironclad physique, I not only escaped the black ore mine that had imprisoned me for years, but also successfully exacted bloody vengeance for my master's deep grudge. However, just as I returned to town after settling my debt of blood, I discovered that my wanted posters were plastered across every nook and cranny of the streets. It appeared that this trouble was unavoidable after all. If the Wu sect desires my head, very well. I am currently in need of a stepping stone to enter the world of cultivation. Before he passed, Elder Wei commanded me to deliver a letter to the eldest young miss of the Wu sect. Though that old man had consistently manipulated me, he was in a sense a mentor. To secure a reliable cultivation sect, I decided to head to the Wu sect to investigate. According to Elder Wei, the Wukan mountain range serves as the western bastion of Mo province in Jiang Kingdom. Leaving the Wukan mountain range and heading directly west, one encounters a vast, endless desert, and the Wu sect happens to be situated near the borders of the Wukan mountain range, beside a strange pitch-black pond. That afternoon, as I sat cross-legged on a blue boulder, meditating, I suddenly heard the hurried sound of a carriage approaching on the narrow forest path. Who dares to block the carriage of my young mistress? Are you tired of living? I had no desire to involve myself in matters that did not concern me. I stood up, intending to leave. Open your dog eyes and look clearly at who we are. This is the carriage of the Wu sect. If you do not wish to die, get out of our way immediately. Upon hearing the words Wu sect, my heart stirred and I quickly stopped, hiding in the dense bushes to observe the path. In the middle of the road stood an opulent, luxurious carriage. Sitting within the carriage was a beautiful middle-aged woman, a long whip clutched firmly in her hand. Surrounding the carriage were more than 10 men dressed in green, their faces masked, long blades in their hands as they circled the vehicle. The leader, a man of tall stature, remained unmoved by the woman's warning, waving his hand to signal his subordinates to attack. Then, several of them stomped their feet in unison and charged forward, slashing their blades toward the woman and the carriage cabin. A series of metallic clashes rang out. Instantly, half of the green-clad men screamed and collapsed to the ground. The blades of the remaining men struck the carriage cabin, shattering it. From the wreckage, a young woman in red, her face veiled, soared out, landing gracefully on the ground with a light tap of her toes. Although dusk had fallen, I could still see clearly. The young woman was tall, and despite her features being hidden, the youthful aura she exuded suggested she was quite young. Could she be the eldest daughter of the Wu sect, Wu Qingquan? Young mistress, are you unharmed? I am fine. The martial arts of these men are unfathomable, especially their defense against hidden weapons. We must exercise extreme caution. Before the woman in red could finish her sentence, she suddenly cried out, her eyes fixed behind her. Why would you do this? The woman in red clutched her bleeding waist, her voice filled with shock and disbelief. I too was left momentarily stunned by this sudden turn of events. Just a moment ago, the middle-aged woman had abruptly drawn a dagger. Fortunately, the young woman had reacted quickly, narrowly dodging the blow. Had she been a second slower, she would surely have perished on the spot. As expected of the pride of our Wu sect, to think that even from such close proximity, one blow was not enough to claim your life. The man in the green robe with his face obscured spoke. Upon finishing his sentence, he slowly walked over and stood beside the beautiful woman. Hiding in the brush, I witnessed everything, feeling a chill run through my entire body. From that cunning old man Zhao Ming to the individuals before me, everyone in the Wu sect possesses such deep, treacherous schemes. It is truly chilling to behold. Forget it. It is better not to join this Wu sect at all. The Ziyuan manual has 12 levels. I shall continue my cultivation while slowly searching for an immortal sect. Having decided this, I prepared myself to slip away quietly. I never imagined you would be able to bribe even Wrong D. Impressive. Truly impressive. Hearing this, my body, already turned to leave, suddenly froze. This man is actually Zhao Qiu, the son of Zhao Ming? This coincidence is truly unbelievable. The woman in red clutched her bleeding waist, her voice filled with shock and disbelief. I too was stunned by this sudden turn of events. A moment ago, the beautiful woman had suddenly drawn a dagger, and only because the woman in red reacted quickly was she able to dodge, suffering only a grazing wound. Had she been any slower, the woman in red would certainly have lost her life on the spot, as expected of a favored daughter of our Wu sect. To survive a killing blow from such close range, truly remarkable. The man in the green robe with his face obscured spoke. After speaking, he slowly walked over and stood beside the beautiful woman. Hiding in the brush, I witnessed it all, and felt a chill creep over my entire body. From the cunt old man Zhao Ming to these people before me, everyone in the Wu sect is so full of malice and depth, it is truly disheartening. Forget it, it is better not to join this Wu sect. The Ziyuan manual has 12 levels. I will continue to cultivate while searching for an immortal sect at my own pace. With that thought, I prepared to sneak away. Zhao Qiu, I never imagined you would be able to bribe even Wrong D. Impressive, truly impressive. Hearing these words, my body, already turned to depart, suddenly stiffened. This man is actually the son of Zhao Ming. This is far too coincidental. Seeing that his identity had been exposed, Zhao directly tore off his veil, revealing his face. I examined him closely. He indeed bore a striking resemblance to Zhao Ming. Qingquan, not simply hand over the Wu sect command, token to young Master Kuo. For the sake of our past, we might still be persuaded to spare your life. Wrongdi, I have always believed that I treated you well over these years. Why have you conspired with this person? Do not blame me. Having said this, the beautiful woman glanced at Zhao Qiu, a faint flush appearing on her face. In the shroud of darkness, Wu Qingquan could not see it, but I observed it with perfect clarity. However, these matters were of no consequence. Since Zhao Ke had appeared, then every one of these people must die tonight. Who goes there? With an expressionless face, I stepped directly out from the brush. Without wasting words, I manipulated the flying needles to hover before me. With a flick of my finger, a chorus of astonished gasps echoed through the air. It is a cultivator. Before the words could fully fade, the 12 flying needles pierced straight through the hearts of the 12 men in green. With the exception of Zhao Qiu, the men in green collapsed to the ground without a sound. Wu Qingquan, Zhao Qiu, and the beautiful woman, recovering from their shock, immediately scattered and fled in 3 different directions. They were top-tier martial artists of the Zhonghu, yet when faced with a cultivator, they were filled only with fear and terror. The reaction of the 3 caught me off guard for a moment, but I quickly steered the flying fire needles to pursue Zhao Qiu. Seeing the strange, shimmering needles striking toward him, the beautiful woman immediately screamed, "Immortal Master, you cannot kill him. He is a fairy seed of Wulong Valley. If you kill him, Wulong Valley will never forgive you." Upon hearing the mention of an immortal, my heart stirred. I flicked my finger, and the flying fire needles halted instantly behind Zhao Wu's neck. "He is no fairy seed, he possesses no woman token. He is merely a parasite." Wu Qingquan's voice rang out, filled with fury and disdain. "Qingquan, my dear eldest lady, why must you be this way? You have no immortal root. What use is it to cling so stubbornly to the woman token? It would be better to give it to Zhao Qiu. Once he enters Wulong Valley, both you and I could ascend to the heavens in a single step. Wumen will then officially become the greatest sect in the Zhonghu. You killed my father. Even if I die, I will never surrender the woman token to him." As she spoke, her voice gradually grew, as if her wounds were worsening by the moment. "Senior sister, the sect master's death was an accident. It has nothing to do with me." Zhao Qiu at this moment attempted to justify himself. I found the whole affair headache-inducing. Regarding the grievances of these people, I naturally had no interest. I cared only for the fairy seed, but since I had already stayed my hand, it was convenient to ask a few questions while I had the chance. "All of you, come here. I have questions for you. I ask you, Wumen has issued a bounty for Yang Fan. What exactly is the meaning of this order?" "Yang Fan? Which Yang Fan?" "Eldest Miss Wu, you must understand. I am only following the sect master's orders. As a subordinate, I am not privy to the details. He is lying. He is the one who meddled, obstructed the investigation, and issued the wanted order alongside his master. What do you have to say for yourself?" "You are slandering me. I have no acquaintance with this Yang Fan." "You do not know him? Then what of the Ming dynasty, surely? You are familiar with that? It matters little now. I have already deduced the truth. To ask any further would be a mere waste of time." Hearing this, Zhao Qiu felt a moment of relief, but before he could rejoice, he felt a sharp, piercing pain between his brows. In an instant, a foreign energy surged forth and extinguished his consciousness. "You are finished. You are truly finished. You have slain Xian Miao. The Wulong Valley will never forgive you for this. Then go down to the underworld and keep him company. I have eliminated your enemy. Now, tell me in detail about the Wulong Order, the Immortal Root, and the Immortal Cat. Are you going to kill me? Did you think I would not dare? That is not it. You are an immortal master. Before you, we mortals are no different from ants. I was already afflicted by a potent poison, and now having been betrayed and gravely wounded by someone I trusted, that dagger was coated in venom as well. I have little time remaining. I am merely waiting for death. It would be a mercy if you were to end my life quickly." Her voice was thick with exhaustion and helplessness, laced with a deep, lingering resentment. I knew she was speaking the truth. After a moment of contemplation, I suddenly smiled and asked, "Do you know? If not for that wanted order, I might have become a disciple of Wu Mo long ago." I then retrieved a letter from within my robes. Wu Qingxuan quickly took it, lit a torch, and began to read. She stood frozen in place for a long, long time. Only then did she softly murmur, "The Wu sect has missed an opportunity to dominate the martial world. Perhaps it has even missed the chance to tread an entirely different path. The greed of that master and disciple has truly blinded them and brought ruin to the entire Wu sect. Let us speak plainly. If you surrender the Wu sect order to me and explain the truth about the immortal root and the immortal cat, I will purge all the poison from your body and ensure your survival. I have no desire to squander more time. After all, the path of immortality is what matters most." Wu Qingxuan finished reading the letter of guarantee from Elder Wei. She was convinced that someone had colluded with external enemies to assassinate Elder Wei, and those individuals I eliminated at the time were likely the very culprits who had conspired with the outsiders. Due to her connection with Elder Wei, she had already intended to inform me about the Oman token. Now, hearing that I could purge all the toxins from her body, Her heart was naturally overcome with immense joy. Consequently, she held nothing back and revealed the entire truth. Upon hearing her account, I kept my promise. Not only did I hand over Elder Wei's second letter, but I also gifted her a clarity pill. At this moment, I felt incredibly exhilarated, as the path to finding the Immortal sect, which previously seemed devoid of any leads, had been so unexpectedly resolved. Thus, gifting her that clarity pill, in my estimation, was entirely well-deserved. However, retrieving that Oman token would prove to be somewhat troublesome. To ensure the evidence could not be recovered, Wu Qingquan had cast the Oman token into the forbidden Black Crow Pool of the Oman sect. 2 days later, we arrived at the Black Crow Pool. The area was blanketed in layers of rotting foliage, and the air was heavy with a foul stench. A pool of black water spanning over 30 zhang sat at the heart of this dark forest. The surface bubbled incessantly, releasing acrid, noxious gases. Wu Qingquan stopped and said, "I can only bring you this far." I nodded and proceeded forward alone. According to Wu Qingquan, she had tossed the Oman token into the pool from a distance. Given my current cultivation level, and the technique I possess, it seemed there was no other way than to enter the poisonous waters. However, I did not approach this blindly or without a degree of certainty. For many days I had been soaking in medicinal poison baths, allowing my skin to absorb and undergo strengthening for several months. Although I was still unsure of the true durability of my skin, I held great faith in the heaven and earth chaos art. After all, when I studied this technique, I had read every word and detail of its annotations with the utmost care. Therefore, I decided to test whether my body could withstand the corrosive nature of the toxic pool. Without hesitation, I bent down and submerged both hands into the water. As my arms sank deep into the depths, and bone-chilling cold instantly pierced through to my very heart, a surge of immense joy flooded my heart. The water, which Wu Qingquan considered to be lethally poisonous, had absolutely no effect on me. However, to be absolutely certain, I still kept a clearing heart pill hidden beneath my tongue. Overjoyed, I momentarily forgot that there was a lady of refined grace behind me, and proceeded to discard my garments and step directly into the pool. Seeing that I did not shy away, Wu Qingquan, who was standing at a distance, was stunned for a moment, before hurriedly closing her eyes. She waited until she heard the sound of water before opening them again. She discovered that, aside from my head, my entire body was now submerged beneath the surface of the pool. Seeing that I showed no signs of poisoning, she could not help but feel a sense of admiration. She too had once yearned to become a cultivator, but unfortunately, she possessed no immortal root. The immortal masters of Wulong Valley had stated clearly, one without an immortal root could never become a cultivator. This cruel law of heaven was absolute and could not be broken by anyone. Her heart was filled with deep reluctance, yet I, unaware of her thoughts, had already closed my eyes and dived to the bottom of the pool. I could clearly feel the resilience of my own flesh, which prevented the toxins in the pool from penetrating my body in the slightest. However, my spiritual sense could only extend to a radius of a dozen or so zhang. After checking several locations, I finally sensed a peculiar token of significant size. I quickly retrieved it and returned to the shore. Opening my palm, I saw the character Wu carved upon it. A flicker of irrepressible joy appeared on my face. With this Wulong token, I could finally gain entry into the Cultivation sect, Wulong Valley. At this moment, Wu Qingquan's face flushed slightly as she whispered, "Shouldn't you put on your clothes first? Shouldn't you put on your clothes first?" This is the Immortal Guiding Wulong token. Take this to Wulong Valley, and tell them you are the Immortal Sprout chosen by Wu men in the Wugan mountain range. When the time comes, I shall provide you with a letter of verification. I noticed the shift in Wu Qingquan's eyes, and understood that she lacked the so-called immortal root and could never become a cultivator. Just how, then, was this immortal root assessed? An immortal disciple from Wulong Valley would carry a crystal-like sphere, and by touching it with one hand, one could determine whether or not they possessed an immortal root. And it is even possible to discern the attributes of one's immortal root. So that is how it is. I shall keep this firmly in mind and prepare to test my own immortal root once I enter Wulong Valley. Before departing, I naturally sought out Zhao Ju's master, and without the slightest hesitation, ended his life with a single flying needle. Half a month later, I had crossed the Okin mountain range and entered a vast, boundless desert. According to the map provided by Othan Tuyen, Wulong Valley is located within this desolate wasteland. Although I cannot fully comprehend it, I trust that the map Othan Tuyen gave me is not a fabrication. Braving the biting winds, I continued to press forward for another 5 or 6 days. Just as Lu Ku was down to his last small piece of dry ration, the Oolong token at my waist suddenly began to resonate. The light emanating from it flashed with intense brilliance. Not long after, a streak of light descended from the windswept sky ahead and charged toward me, and soon I saw a beautiful woman clad in silver robes, seated atop a large silver-colored gourd, descending gracefully before me. "Little friend, I am the reception disciple Shuang Wit of Wulong Valley. Please present your Oolong token and your proof of identity for my inspection." The token and the letter of verification were both in order. Follow me, and I shall take you to register your entry. Once your residency is registered, you will officially be a disciple of our Wulong Valley. Then I shall trouble you, fairy. Suppressing the joy in my heart, I stepped onto the woman's silver gourd and soared into the sky. After crossing the endless desert, I saw Fairy Shuangwet produce a peculiar sheet of golden paper. We have arrived. Follow me. Fairy Shuangwet led me up the stone steps, and simultaneously the large gourd transformed into a miniature, delicate version, though I could not tell where she had concealed it. I only saw a flash of light before it vanished from sight. I followed Fairy Shuangwet to the end of the stone steps, where countless emerald peaks suddenly appeared before my eyes. The spiritual energy was dense and abundant, with even massive boulders suspended in mid-air. It was truly a magnificent sight. At this moment, Fairy Shuangwet produced the silver gourd once again, and as it caught the wind it expanded in size, and in no time we arrived before a grand palace. Little friend, enter and test your immortal root. Once your residence is assigned, perhaps we shall meet again if fate permits. Fairy Shuangwet gave me an encouraging look and departed with a faint smile. I stepped into the grand palace and discovered many others like myself registering for the examination, and I could not help but wonder what manner of immortal root I truly possessed. I stood quietly in line, my heart heavy with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Inside the great hall, a massive crystal orb hovered in the air, with an elder in white robes, possessing a transcendent and ethereal demeanor, standing behind it. Every examinee would step forward to touch the crystal orb, which would then emit light of various colors. Following that, the white-robed elder would use a brush to record something in the archives. Finally, it was my turn. I took a deep breath to steady my nerves before approaching the crystal orb. With a calm expression, the white-robed elder asked, "What is your name?" "Yang Fan." "Which Yang?" "Which Fan?" "Yang as in the Yang of the wood radical, Fan as in ordinary." "Place your hand on the orb to begin the examination." "Conduct the test once more." "Uncle Master Mu, this child's immortal root is truly peculiar. The crystal orb is completely unable to gauge his aptitude. I ask that you personally intervene and examine him." "Oh? Extend your hand here." "Oh? Extend your hand here." "What a pity, truly lamentable. It is a grave waste. Uncle Mr. Mu, I do not understand why you find it regrettable. This child possesses a rare, mutated dual immortal root. Had this immortal root been born in the primordial era, it would undoubtedly be an aptitude that defies the heavens. However, in this current age where resources are incredibly scarce, such an aptitude makes Foundation establishment truly hopeless. It has become a cursed aptitude. Then, Uncle Master Mu, how should we arrange for this youth? Since he arrived bearing the Wulong token of our Wulong Valley, just admit him into the valley as usual. See here. Assign him a secluded cave dwelling and some menial labor. As you command, Uncle Master Mu." The white-robed elder respectfully sent the elder in green robes away, then turned to look at me, his expression filled with profound regret. "Yang Fan, you possess a mutated dark lightning dual immortal root. Had you lacked even one of these immortal roots, you could have become a core disciple of our valley. Unfortunately, you heard the words of our patriarch Mu yourself. Because as you possess an additional mutated immortal root, you no longer have any hope of achieving Foundation establishment." The white-robed elder pondered for a moment, before handing me an identity token. "From now on, you are an official disciple of our Wulong Valley, but you may only choose a cave. As for the basic cultivation techniques, you may go to the transmission hall to collect them yourself. This jade slip contains a record of the items you are permitted to claim, and the menial tasks you must complete each month." I silently reached out and accepted it. From the moment the old man in the green robe spoke those words, I had fallen into a deep silence, unable to utter a single sound. His assertion that I would have no hope of achieving Foundation establishment in this life struck me with heavy force, leaving my heart burdened with grief. Although I did not fully grasp the implications of his words, I had begun to vaguely understand what they meant. After exiting the main hall, someone led me and several other new disciples to collect our belongings before escorting us to Sunset Gorge. A sense of desolation washed over me. Sunset Gorge is the most remote location within the Wulong Valley sect, and it is also where the spiritual energy is the most sparse. Upon entering the gorge, I discovered that it was deathly quiet. Not even a single bird could be seen. Yet after receiving the items earlier, my mood had improved significantly. I had come to terms with the matter of my aptitude. At the very least, I felt that my current path of cultivation held no issues, and so, I had no intention of claiming the basic cultivation techniques. Furthermore, my time in Sunset Gorge would only be temporary. The jade slip stated that as long as I completed enough menial tasks, earned a sufficient amount of sect contribution points, or reached the 9th level of chi condensation, I could leave this place and head to Longxi Mountain to establish my own cultivation cave. Shortly after, I found an uninhabited courtyard situated between the mountains and a stream. On the plaque hanging before the gate were 3 characters, Wankanshi abode. It seemed that this was the name of the residence. After a thorough cleaning, the entire courtyard looked as good as new. In the front courtyard, there was a patch of abandoned land intended for herbs. According to the Jade Slip, one could choose to tend to medicinal herbs as a menial task, but one had to register and collect seeds from the sect's Baiji Hall. Every 6 months, one must submit the matured herbs corresponding to the seeds provided in order to receive a fixed amount of contribution points. However, if the minimum quota for the submission is not met, the next collection will require double the amount, or the previous contribution points will be deducted. Having memorized the records on alchemy and currently practicing the heaven and earth chaos technique, I chose to cultivate the herbs without the slightest hesitation. Only then did I return to my room to retrieve each item I had collected earlier. The names and functions of all the items were clearly recorded within the Jade Slip. A standard low-grade storage bag, a low-grade longsword Dharma treasure, a low-grade flying Dharma treasure, and a set of daily refinement tools. I quickly familiarized myself with how to operate the storage bag. I channeled a sliver of magical power into it and focused on the objects. A faint light emanated from the mouth of the storage bag, and the item then shrank, pulled into the storage space. After testing this a few times, my initial interest faded. I began to contemplate how I should proceed with my cultivation. Sensing a profound lack of foundational knowledge, I decided to spend the next 10 or 15 days in the sect's library. In truth, what I sought to clarify was the nature of my mutated immortal root. After resting for a while, I stepped outside, intending to head straight for the library pavilion. But upon leaving the courtyard and surveying the misty mountains in the distance, I realized I had been too hasty. The deacon who brought me here previously had arrived by riding a flying magical artifact. It appeared that to reach the sect's library, I must first learn to master a flying artifact. Immediately, I channeled my spiritual power into the storage bag and, with a flick of my divine sense, retrieved it. This night-traveling flying artifact was small, just enough for one person. As I channeled my power into it, the artifact began to hover slowly near my feet. I carefully stepped onto it and performed a telekinetic art. It trembled, stirred, and ascended into midair. My body suddenly tilted. Terrified, I hurriedly lowered my center of gravity, spreading my feet wide, and once I felt secure, I increased my spiritual power slightly to guide it in a slow flight. After practicing for an entire hour, I finally felt that I had truly mastered it. By now, night had fallen. Although I had learned to control the flying artifact, I also discovered because my spiritual power was insufficient, I could not make the artifact fly at any great speed. Furthermore, my stomach began to growl with hunger. I retracted the flying artifact, returned to the courtyard, and consumed the last small piece of bread with a cup of cold water. I then dug up the soil in the abandoned herb patch and moved a portion of it to the back of the courtyard, near the cliffside. There, I fashioned a small nursery and replanted the roots of the 9-leaf sun-searing fruit. It would be ideal if I could acquire some spiritual fluid or spiritual soil. Having tidied up, I returned to my room, sat cross-legged on the bed, and withdrew a white jade bottle, the one containing the 8 treasures elixirs. There were originally 19 pills in total. I consumed one during my breakthrough to the second level of chi refining, leaving 18 remaining. Without a moment's hesitation, I consumed another pill, immediately circulating the Ziyuan manual to begin my cultivation. I cultivated until dawn, not sleeping for the entire night, sensing that the spiritual power within my body had progressed once more. I found myself becoming increasingly captivated by the potency of the Bazin pill. Both the prescription and the refining process for the Bazin pill were detailed within the Alchemy Miscellany, and so I decided that from now on, beyond my regular cultivation, I must begin the study of alchemy as well. Otherwise, once my supply of Bazin pills was exhausted, I would have no elixirs left to hasten my advancement. I proceeded to continue my cultivation until the middle of the day. Once the medicinal power had been refined, I boarded my flying artifact and drifted slowly toward the central Great Hall. At a speed comparable to a turtle, it took nearly 2 hours to reach the sect's central pavilion. This area housed numerous subsidiary buildings, the scripture repository, the lecture hall, and more. Rather than rushing to the scripture repository, I sought out the nearby Baiji Hall to register for some miscellaneous tasks. I claimed 100 seeds of the Buyu Huang herb, which meant that in half a year, I would need to submit 100 mature Buyu Huang plants to receive the corresponding contribution points. The reason I chose this specific herb was because this type of hemostatic plant is quite common. Firstly, it is easy to cultivate, and secondly, it grows with remarkable density. If planted alongside the Juye Moyang fruit, it serves as an excellent screen for protection. After securing the seeds, I finally made my way toward the scripture repository. A gaunt, middle-aged cultivator sat leisurely upon a large chair. When he saw me enter, his eyes briefly flickered with interest. "Are you here to search for cultivation manuals? Perhaps you seek alchemical prescriptions? Then surely you must be looking for techniques." Upon hearing my responses, the middle-aged cultivator deduced that I was merely another green disciple. Disciples of this sort had been quite frequent lately. Those who visited the scripture repository were usually novices to the path of immortality, lacking knowledge and seeking only the most basic, common information. Having seen many such disciples, he knew they possessed little innate talent, and his interest vanished as quickly as it had appeared. He gestured lazily toward a certain direction, saying, "Enter through that door. All books within may be read without cost." I offered my thanks and immediately stepped inside, only to discover a fair number of other disciples present. Yet everyone remained perfectly silent. It seemed no one dared to speak above a whisper. I scanned the room carefully, deciding to begin my search from the nearest bookshelf. Time slipped away as I became engrossed in my studies, only stopping when my stomach let out a protest, startling me. Returning to reality from the depths of the ancient texts, I suddenly remembered that I possessed one final grain-avoiding pill, which I promptly consumed, but more than 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. It was only then that I stood up with a grave expression, slowly closing the ancient tome. In nearly half a month, I had acquired a wealth of knowledge regarding cultivation that I had never heard of before. In particular, a book tucked away in the corner, covered in dust, a modest yellowed parchment that seemed unremarkable at first glance, had truly helped me uncover the truth behind my own mutation. Having finished it, my heart felt incredibly heavy. Whether in the primordial era or the present age, the vast majority of cultivators possess one or several elemental spiritual roots. Rare indeed is the individual who possesses a mutated spiritual root. While elemental spiritual roots are commonplace, mutated spiritual roots are exceptionally rare, and dual mutated spiritual roots are rarer still. Due to the unique nature of their roots, cultivators with dual mutated spiritual roots find the process of foundation establishment immensely difficult. In the primordial era, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was dense, and treasures of heaven and earth were abundant everywhere. In those times, those with dual mutated spiritual roots were instead hailed as the chosen of the heavens. Such cultivators were granted the opportunity to be cleansed by the heavenly grace. Once cleansed by the heavenly grace, and having successfully established their foundation, they would far surpass cultivators of the same level, whether forming a golden core or condensing a nascent soul. However, in this present age of cultivation, resources are far too scarce, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is significantly thinner than in the ancient past. As for the heavenly grace, it has vanished for countless years, rendering it impossible for modern cultivators with dual mutated spiritual roots to receive its blessing. During foundation establishment, the two mutated spiritual roots undergo an unfathomable, mutual depletion, making the path to success 10,000 times harder than that of a common cultivator. Given this level of difficulty, success is virtually impossible. Consequently, this has become a spiritual root of ill fortune in the current age. As for what the heavenly grace actually was, today, almost no cultivator knows. Fortunately, I have learned that common spiritual roots consist of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. There are also many mutated spiritual roots such as wind, lightning, shadow, light, and poison, and by identifying one's spiritual root attributes, one can select the appropriate cultivation manual. Now that I know I possess the dual mutated shadow and lightning spiritual roots, would it not be more appropriate to cultivate manuals aligned with those attributes? I wonder what attributes the Z1 manual and the Chaos Heaven and Earth manual possess. My heart was filled with confusion and more than a hint of anxiety, but I quickly shook my head. Let it be. As long as I can cultivate normally, that is enough. Through this half-month of frantic study, I have come to realize that cultivation is a profoundly esoteric discipline. It is impossible to grasp all the secrets of cultivation at once. One must remain calm and study them gradually. With that, I rose to my feet and departed from the library. Now the path of my future cultivation has become clear. The goal is to cultivate with all my might to the 12th level of chi condensation. Then find a way to obtain a foundation establishment pill to attempt a breakthrough. As for this matter of Tianin, I can only take it one step at a time. Afterward, I headed to the instruction hall to find senior brother Situ. He is a young man at the 12th level of chi condensation, responsible for teaching spells to new disciples. Recently, quite a few new disciples have joined the sect. Senior brother Situ was currently lecturing on spells. I quickly entered in silence, sat cross-legged and listened attentively. The senior brother Situ truly possesses a profound understanding of basic spells. Hearing his lecture allowed me to gain a new perspective on the wind control technique and the ice arrow spell, which had always troubled me. Even regarding the application of the object control technique and the heavenly eye technique, I gained a deeper understanding. Once senior brother Situ finished his lecture, I stepped forward humbly to inquire about several other issues. Unexpectedly, senior brother Situ was very amicable and answered my many questions without the slightest hint of impatience. For instance, I'd only just learned that the golden paper strips previously used by Fairy Chengyu were actually talismans. They can be purchased at designated locations within the sect or at the marketplace. However, acquiring such items requires spirit stones, and it is a pity that I have never even laid eyes on one. Nevertheless, I was not discouraged. On the contrary, I became even more energized. After learning several ways to earn spirit stones from senior brother Situ, I mounted my flying magical tool and returned to Wangxi Abode. I proceeded to sow the seeds of the Jade Emperor grass and medicinal herbs in the front courtyard, and continued sowing the Jade Emperor grass seeds in the nursery at the back. Only then did I return to my sleeping quarters to synthesize and digest all the information I had gathered. After a good night's sleep to restore my spirit, I went to a nearby mountain to forage for wild fruit to satisfy my hunger, then scavenged for some wild wheat. Before returning to the remaining empty plot in the medicinal field, I began to practice the ice arrow spell, yet after several days I still could not succeed. After some deliberation, I decisively retrieved a basin pill, swallowed it, and began to practice the purple origin technique with all my might. Half a year later, having fully exhausted the medicinal power of the basin pill, I successfully advanced to the next level of chi condensation. Over these past 6 months, having tasted the benefits of using medicinal elixirs, my cultivation base had progressed at a frantic pace. I found that I could no longer endure the stagnation of relying solely on absorbing spiritual energy to cultivate. Thus, after the Bajen pill was fully consumed, I continued to cultivate for another half-month. In the end, I could no longer hold out. I was forced to end my cultivation session and headed toward the medicinal field. I used the freshly ripened wild barley to grind into flour, and prepared a bowl of scallion oil noodles, a dish I had not tasted in a long time. After eating my fill, I reclined upon a rattan chair in the courtyard, watching the babbling brook before me and the distant sunset. The mental tension I had endured for the past half-year completely dissipated, and for a moment, I felt as carefree as an immortal. Amidst this profound relaxation, my mind began to contemplate magical techniques involuntarily. Gradually, I seemed to drift into a mystical dreamlike state. I know not how much time had passed when I suddenly felt an icy sensation on my fingertip, causing me to snap out of my trance. Looking at the arrow of solidified ice upon my fingertip, my heart surged with excitement. Having broken through to the 4th layer of key refining, I had finally mastered the ice arrow technique. Without delay, I went to a nearby hill, aimed directly ahead, and released the ice arrow from my fingertip. With a series of crisp, piercing sounds, the ice arrows struck deep into the sturdy tree trunk. Furthermore, at the points where the ice arrows impacted, the wood showed clear signs of being corroded by the biting cold energy. The execution of the ice arrow technique consumes very little mana, making it both swift and convenient. Moreover, according to the incantations of this technique, it also possesses the ability to suppress fire attribute spells. I was in high spirits. Returning to Wangji Abode, I harvested the 100 stalks of Puyu Huang and flew toward the Baiji Hall. The elderly man in charge of inspections at the Baiji Hall confirmed that there were no issues with the herbs I had delivered. Do you wish for contribution points or spirit stones? It can be exchanged for spirit stones as well. Indeed, 1 contribution point can be exchanged for 1 low-grade spirit stone. These Puyu Huang herbs of yours are worth 6 contribution points, so I shall exchange them for spirit stones. Upon hearing this, the old man tossed 6 low-grade spirit stones toward me before returning to his work. I gazed at the small stones pulsating with spiritual energy before me, unable to suppress my joy and curiosity. So this is what a spirit stone is. The spiritual energy contained within is truly remarkably pure. After tucking the spirit stones away, I decided to wander through the marketplace to see if I could acquire the medicinal herbs necessary to refine Bayesian pills. Yet after the countless items within the marketplace left me both curious and eager, yet in the end I found nothing to purchase, though it could be said my horizons were broadened. Furthermore, I turned my attention to this Yunju pavilion. While there was a diverse array of magical artifacts and materials, medicinal herbs were exceptionally scarce, to say nothing of finished medicinal elixirs. Afterwards, I wandered until late at night, gauging the general market prices for various materials and artifacts. For instance, the low-grade short sword I received upon entering the sect is worth 9 low-grade spirit stones. This type of low-grade magical artifact typically costs around 10 low-grade spirit stones. Mid- and high-grade types range from 30 to 1,200, but peak-grade artifacts are significantly more expensive, requiring several hundred low-grade spirit stones, and sets can even demand thousands to acquire. This provided me with a preliminary evaluation of my own Flying Fire Meteor set, which the Jade Slip described as a peak-grade artifact. It must be worth at least 3,000 to 5,000 low-grade spirit stones. Yet reflecting on the materials I yearned for but could not afford, I felt quite discouraged, especially the pill furnace and the medicinal herbs required to refine the Bajan pill. Their absence made me frown. I visited the small craft pavilion to inquire. A reasonably decent pill furnace cost nearly 40 low-grade spirit stones, whereas the Poo Jade that I spent half a year cultivating only yielded 6 stones. Calculating it this way, I wouldn't be able to afford one even in 3 years. Clearly, relying on this method is not sustainable. On the path back to Luori River, I pondered the ways to earn spirit stones that senior brother Situ had mentioned. As I approached a desolate mountain, I suddenly sensed 2 figures approaching rapidly from behind, a man and a woman. 2 masked cultivators flew ahead, blocking my path. I hurriedly activated the Heavenly Eye technique, vaguely perceiving that both individuals were at the 6th layer of chi refining. I reached into my sleeve, gripping 2 of my flying fire needles. Senior brother and senior sister, what is the meaning of this? Do not be afraid, little junior brother. We merely noticed you wandering the marketplace all day without buying a thing, so we assumed you must be in dire need of spirit stones. We have a method to earn spirit stones quickly, and would like to invite you to join us. What do you think? Approaching me while masked to discuss earning money. Do they take me for a fool? What is this method? If you wish to earn, you must first hand over 10 spirit stones, each to us as an entry fee. Once you have joined, we will naturally tell you. Very well, I shall hand them over. But before the words left my lips, 2 beams of black light struck toward the space between their brows. At the same moment, the magical artifact beneath my feet accelerated, soaring forward. In the blink of an eye, the man and woman retrieved their own artifacts, deflecting the 2 flying fire needles. They were clearly courting death. I glanced back, knowing full well that my speed and spiritual energy were no match for theirs. I decisively retracted my magical artifact, letting my body drop like a falling stone, plunging into the dense, dark forest below. Senior brother, this fellow's artifact is quite rare. It is somewhat extraordinary. Once we have the loot, let us depart immediately. Junior sister, there is no need for concern. This brat is so pathetically poor, one can tell at a glance he has no significant background. So even if we kill him, no one will ever discover it. Finishing his sentence, he dove into the forest to cut off my path, wondering if I intended to flee toward my fellow disciples. He extended his hand, and a ball of fire danced within his palm. I gazed up at the female cultivator still hovering in the air, my expression stoic, though my eyelid twitched slightly. At that exact moment, the male cultivator let out a cold snort and hurled the fireball in his hand with violent intent. Unable to dodge in time, I hastily cast the ice arrow technique, launching it toward the incoming fireball. Ice and fire collided, emitting a strange hissing sound. Although it did not fully dissipate the fireball, it bought me a precious moment to evade the strike. The ground behind the male cultivator suddenly erupted, and over 20 flying needles shot up from the earth, aiming directly for his vital points. The male cultivator's face turned deathly pale in panic, and he desperately summoned a shield to block, but his speed had been significantly hindered by his injuries. The very next second, several flying needles curved around the shield and pierced straight through the back of his neck. A sound of unwillingness escaped the male cultivator's throat before he collapsed. As for the female cultivator in the air, after witnessing the scene with her own eyes, she was so terrified that all color drained from her face. She stared in horror at me as I stood amidst the pool of blood, and without even sparing a thought for her senior brother's remains, she stepped onto her artifact and fled frantically into the darkness. By this time, I had already consumed a spirit replenishing pill, but I dared not linger. Not only could the fluctuation of spiritual energy attract other cultivators, but the mere possibility that the female cultivator might return with reinforcements forced me to suppress the pain. I struggled to my feet, retrieved all my flying needles, and then scavenged the shield and the large hammer from the fallen cultivator. Just as I was about to leave, I caught sight of the storage bag at his waist. Seeing this, I quickly stepped forward to retrieve it, then gathered my strength to scramble up the cliffside before finally returning to the small courtyard. My nerves, which had been stretched to their limit, finally relaxed. I immediately sat cross-legged and began to focus entirely on healing my wounds. Only then, still trembling with residual fear, did I realize that my back was drenched in cold sweat. It was fortunate that I possessed a nutrient elixir. Otherwise, I would have truly lost my life this time. The wound on my chest was grave, and it took me half a month of recovery before I could walk normally again. During this time, I lay on my rattan chair, reviewing every detail of that battle, summarizing my experiences and shortcomings, before once again taking out the incomplete manual of the Chaos Heaven and Earth art to continue researching body-refining methods. 2 more months passed, and only after confirming that the female cultivator had made no moves to seek revenge did I open the male cultivator's storage bag and emptied its contents. When I discovered a jade slip inside and read its contents, I was momentarily stunned. The jade slip marked a secret location where the spiritual energy was exceptionally dense. Within it grew rare and precious spiritual herbs that were seldom seen. If one could gather them to sell, they would naturally fetch a vast amount of spirit stones. However, this location was guarded by powerful spirit beasts, making the task of entering and gathering them extremely difficult. Upon learning this, I promptly crushed the jade slip, feeling a twinge of frustration. After all, more than 2 months had already passed. If that female cultivator had found reinforcements, it was highly probable that she had already defeated the spirit beasts and claimed those medicinal herbs. My gaze then shifted to the other items, and I picked up a talisman inscribed with strange symbols in silver ink. It was a pity that I possessed no knowledge of talismans, as I did not know the grade of this talisman, nor how to utilize it. What remained were several dozen spirit stones and a circular metal disc. All the spirit stones were of low grade. There were 56 spirit stones in total, but I had never seen this circular metal disc before. It was engraved with symbols and patterns that were even more complex than those on the talisman. After studying it for half a day to no avail, I had no choice but to store it in my spatial bag and turn my attention to the final item. A semi-transparent bottle. I was no stranger to this bottle, as it was designed to store medicinal herb seeds. Opening it to take a look, I discovered it contained seeds of the chi-refining herb, and a smile immediately spread across my face. As it happened, this was one of the supplementary ingredients required for refining the 8 treasures elixir, and what's more, any medicinal herbs grown in the future would not need to be surrendered, as they would belong entirely to me. Without hesitation, I planted them in my herb garden, and then contentedly ate a bowl of scallion noodles, before finally departing for my secluded residence. Afterwards, disguised in a loose gray cloak, I stood at a remote stall, engaging in a Afterward, he disguised himself and traveled to another marketplace, where he purchased a fragmented 5 elements manual for 12 low-grade spirit stones, but only after much bargaining with the shopkeeper, who eventually, with great reluctance, gifted him half a stack of blank talismans. Although it is a fragmented manual, my luck has truly been far from poor. Within this fragment, I have discovered both the utility and the corresponding incantations for that silver ink talisman. This talisman is known as the Silver Armor Talisman, a fire attribute defensive spirit talisman of the early to mid stage, with a value of approximately 10 spirit stones. Following this, I gritted my teeth and purchased a mid-stage, metal attribute spirit talisman with superior defensive capabilities, along with several types of potent poisons and numerous boxes for storing spiritual herbs. Finally, I exhausted my remaining spirit stones to acquire the auxiliary materials needed to refine the 8 treasures pill. Only then did I depart from the marketplace and fly back to my residence. I consulted the methods for refining toxins within the alchemy miscellany and concocted several types of poisons capable of affecting even those at the foundation establishment stage. Next, following the instructions recorded in the poisonous scripture of the Wei lineage, I mixed a batch of toxin to pour into a wooden vat, then sat within it to temper my physical body. Simultaneously, I began cultivating the dozens of poison-based arts I had selected. Several days later, I returned to the Grand Hall where my immortal roots were first tested. Having completed the formalities for leaving the valley, I departed from Wulong Valley and headed toward the secret location. Along the way, I used the wind to conceal my presence. I was extremely cautious, deliberately choosing the most desolate paths. 7 days later, I arrived at a towering cliff veiled in white mist. At the summit of the cliff, a colossal waterfall cascaded downward. This must be the place. Standing upon my leaf-shaped Dharma treasure, I cast a protective barrier over my body and plunged directly behind the waterfall, where I found only a narrow crevice choked with weeds. I had to turn sideways to barely squeeze through. Afterward, I clung to the cliff face, inching my way inside. A place so well hidden and difficult to find. How exactly did those two discover it? Or perhaps they simply stumbled upon the jade slip by chance, without ever having visited this location themselves. Countless speculations swirled in my mind as I finally moved to the very end of the passage. The crevice suddenly widened, and before me thick swirling mist appeared, almost as if, after confirming once more that the surrounding spiritual energy was concentrated upon my person, I leapt setting foot on a level expanse of wild grass. I groped my way forward for about 100 zhang, the dense mist obscuring my vision as I sought out the location of the spiritual herbs. Suddenly I heard the voices of 2 people ahead. Hearing this, I was startled, immediately thinking of the female cultivator who had departed in such a peculiar manner. Then, holding my breath and focusing my attention, I stealthily crept along the cliff wall hearing, "Is the spirit stone that senior sister Xinjiao gave you not enough, junior sister Yu? This stone gate is quite peculiar. Theoretically, providing sufficient spirit stones to energize it should open the seal, yet I cannot shake the feeling that something is still missing. Tell me the truth, senior sister, is there something you have forgotten to mention?" Senior sister Tanjiao, the truth is that when we were there, senior brother Chen also recovered a circular metallic disc. Where's that disc now? It is lost. It was in senior brother Chen's possession. Since he went missing, that disc has not been found either. Wang Ye, why did you not speak of this sooner? We have squandered so many spirit stones over these past 2 months. Before she could finish, Tanjiao suddenly felt a wave of dizziness, and her complexion shifted dramatically. Beside her, Wang Yue collapsed to the ground with a thud. They were unaware that I was concealed behind a large boulder nearby, clutching a hollow bamboo tube, using the wind to waft colorless and odorless poison gas toward them. This toxin is potent enough to fell even a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. My apologies. Strike first, strike decisively. Seeing both female cultivators succumb to the poison, a flash of ferocity crossed my eyes, and I launched 2 flying needles. 2 crisp sounds of collision rang out. Reeling, Tanjiao still managed to execute a defensive technique, intercepting the needles with precision. Show yourself. Realizing the ambush had failed, I stepped out from behind the boulder with an emotionless expression. Wang Ye, limp on the ground, laid eyes upon me. Her gaze filled with utter terror before she pointed at me and shrieked until her voice turned hoarse. It was him. He stole the item from senior brother Chen. It is highly likely that he is the one who murdered him. Her effort turning the tables and shifting the blame is truly remarkable. Tanjiao was stunned, yet she moved to support Wang Ye. Junior sister Yu, I have no interest in idle talk. With a flicker of my intent, 24 flying needles surged forth from my sleeves, hovering around me like vipers, poised to strike. Witnessing this, Tanjiao seized the moment to stealthily swallow a detoxifying elixir, but her expression darkened almost instantly. The antidote was ineffective. Senior sister, kill him at once. If we do, we can retrieve the circular disc and enter the gate. A flicker of hesitation crossed Tanjiao's eyes, but she ultimately resolved to attack. The profound underworld mirror in her hand glowed with brilliant light, hovering in the air and emitting beams of radiance that locked onto me. I hastily executed the wind control technique to evade, simultaneously directing my flying needles toward the small mirror. Yet, the moment the needles touched the radiance, their speed plummeted significantly. My mind raced. I immediately drew the massive Firecloud mace from my storage bag and hurled it violently toward Tanjiao. This is senior brother Chen's Firecloud mace. It seems 9 parts certain that he truly perished by your hand. The radiance shifted, suppressing the Firecloud hammer. Suddenly, a dangerous green talisman appeared in Tanjiao's hand, as she prepared to activate it in a desperate struggle. Unexpectedly, her body shuddered, her magical power stagnated, and the poison within her surged with greater intensity. Senior sister Tanjiao, hurry, the spirit stone energy powering the stone door is nearly exhausted. I turned to look. The flowing light upon the stone door was indeed beginning to wane rapidly. I was becoming anxious as well. I did not possess enough spirit stones to replenish its energy. Fellow Taoist, why don't we cease hostilities for now and join forces to open this stone door? You must be aware that rare elixirs lie within. If we manage to open the door, we can rely on our own abilities to seize them. Her spirit stones were nearly spent, and even if I agreed, I would not be able to enter alone. Furthermore, the talisman in her hand was undoubtedly a trump card. I immediately retracted the Firecloud hammer, stepped before the stone door, and withdrew the circular metal formation plate. A strange beam of light shot directly from the plate into the center of the stone door. Boom, accompanied by a deafening roar. The heavy stone door finally began to grind open. Senior sister Tanjiao, the door is open. Kill him quickly to avenge senior brother Chen. I did not give her a chance to speak further. With one hand, I retracted the circular plate, and turning into a blurred shadow, rushed deep into the stone chamber. Once the 3 of us had entered, the stone door slammed shut with a thunderous crash. Within this secret realm, the heaven and earth spiritual energy was incredibly dense, yet flying Dharma artifacts were rendered completely useless. I was forced to forge ahead on foot, passing through towering ancient trees. I was astonished to discover a field of half-wind grass, the primary ingredient for refining the 8 treasures elixir. Just as I reached out to harvest it, a small, emerald-green snake lunged from the grass like a bolt of lightning. I did not even blink. 2 flying needles shot forth, pinning the snake's head firmly to the ground. After gathering several dozen stalks of half-wind grass, Tanjiao and Wang Yue finally arrived at the scene. Senior sister, you truly shouldn't have shown mercy. Tanjiao remained silent. Both of them harbored their own hidden agendas, and fearing that I would claim all the precious medicinal herbs, they immediately accelerated deeper into the realm. I frantically scavenged throughout the secret realm, not only harvesting herbs required for the nascent dance stage, but also securing the heart-severing grass, a species. However, the refinement of the 8 true pills still requires the final ingredient, the earth vine ginseng. Furthermore, the beast guarding the area, as described in the Jade Slip, has yet to appear. The deeper I venture, the more intense my sense of foreboding becomes. Emerging from the fog ahead stands a towering stone shrine, more than half of which has already collapsed. I prepare to skirt around it. Suddenly, a harrowing scream echoes from within the stone shrine. Recognizing the voice as Wang Yue's, I do not hesitate and turn to flee. Fellow Taoist, is that you? Quickly, come and save us. Without my assistance, you will never escape this place. If you save the 2 of us, all the spirit herbs and medicinal plants we have gathered, including the pseudo-immortal grass hidden here, shall be yours. I grit my teeth and quietly make my way back toward the stone shrine. With a light tap of my foot, I ascend the ruined wall, carefully peering into the temple. Inside the shrine, Wang Yu is tightly bound by revolting black silk threads. Suspended in midair, Xinjiao struggles to wield the Xuanming mirror, desperately repelling the endless barrage of black silk spewing from above. Her arms are nearly fully ensnared. Fellow Taoist, look out above. Countless black silk threads, each as thick as a barrel, erupt from the ceiling of the shrine. A wall of black silk descends to envelop me. The stone wall collapses with a thunderous roar. There is no room to evade. I brandish my diamond shield, and a brilliant golden light radiates outward, forming a protective barrier. The black silk strikes the shield, emitting a screeching, ear-piercing sound of friction. The protective barrier trembles, on the verge of shattering, as a black spider nearly 2 zhang in length drops from the ceiling. Its 8 eyes flare with a blade-like coldness, accompanied by a foul, bloodthirsty wind. 2 of the spider's legs pierce through the diamond barrier, savagely driving into my shoulder and thigh. I let out a groan of agony and strike the venomous spider leg with my palm. Simultaneously, the radiance of the Xuanming mirror washes over the creature. The spider writhes violently, unleashing a powerful sweep that flings me against the temple wall. I land heavily, swallowing a foundation-nurturing pill. Looking toward the corner, I spot a medicinal herb emanating a strange, alluring fragrance. Atop it rests a crimson fruit, rooted in a zhang of top-tier spiritual soil. My eyes burn with fervor. Ignoring my wounds, I scramble forward and snatch the crimson fruit, swallowing it whole. The pseudo-immortal grass. You have consumed the spirit fruit. The black spider descends into a frenzy, lunging directly at me. An emerald radiance envelops its body, forcing its movements to slow. Fellow Taoist, quickly give me the earth fiend ginseng. As long as my magical power does not run dry, the Xiaoming mirror will surely annihilate this beast. I have no concern for such matters. The medicinal power of the spirit fruit erupted within my body. My frame felt as if it were on the verge of exploding, and in a single heartbeat, my cultivation reached a breakthrough, directly shattering the peak of the 4th layer of qi refining, and advancing further. I suddenly opened my eyes, surging forward like a frenzied beast, pushing the chaos heaven and earth art to its absolute limit. With a savage punch, I slammed my fist into the spider's carapace. Amidst a thunderous explosion, Wen Tingjiao and I instantly formed a pincer attack against the demonic beast. Just then, a strange, sinister light followed the spider silk, and silently slipped into the center of Wang Yue's forehead. Wang Yu let out a miserable shriek, her head slumped to the side, and she fell completely unconscious. The black jade spider seemed to sense a terrifying pressure from a higher bloodline. It abruptly abandoned its assault, retreated to the side, and trembled as I seized the chance to wave my hand, sweeping both the remains and the bones of that 1 zhang high-grade spirit soil into my storage ring. At this very moment, Wang Yue, hanging suspended in midair, slowly opened her eyes. As a bone-chilling aura, dreadfully sinister, erupted from her, accompanied by a ghastly laugh, and the spider silk wrapped around her body, snapped piece by piece. This human junior's body is truly too fragile. My scalp went numb. Without the slightest hesitation, I pressed myself close to Wen Tingjiao. You are not senior sister Wang Yue. Who are you? Get out of her body immediately. You ask who this old one is. This old one can no longer remember. It has been far too long, so long that I thought I would never have the chance to return to this world again. Sensing the situation had turned dire, I slowly retreated toward the collapsed stone wall. So, you already wish to leave? My belongings are not so easily taken. She gestured from afar, and the massive black jade spider was pulled straight to the entrance, blocking my path of retreat. Taoist friend, if you recover your spiritual energy, can you defeat this old hag? Wen Tingjiao did not hesitate to take the medicinal pill and swallow it. A mere qi refining practitioner, poisoned, yet still wanting to kill an expert. However, the black jade spider did not move. Instead, it collapsed to the ground in agony, convulsing. The old monster has been distracted for a moment. It has been poisoned. Very well, brat. This old one has underestimated you. Taoist friend, I possess an item that will surely help us escape, but it requires a significant amount of time to execute. Do you have any way to stall this old monster? Sister, I am only at the 4th layer of qi refining. In that case, let us simply wait for death together. I gritted my teeth, feeling the medicinal power of the red ghost pill within my body nearing its limit. You must hold him off. Once I achieve a breakthrough to the 5th level of qi condensation, I will have the confidence to keep him occupied while you execute your technique. Pray that you do not go back on your word. I retreated to the corner, sat cross-legged, and focused all my strength on reaching the 5th level of qi condensation. The old monster was enveloped in churning black bones as a massive, ferocious, ghostly head lunged out, hungrily devouring toward Van Tinjiao. What I enjoy most is watching you struggle before the precipice of death, only to succumb to ultimate despair. Van Tinjiao brandished the profound underworld mirror, its brilliant red light firmly intercepting the ghostly head and forcing it to dissipate. The old monster let out a cold laugh and raised his hands to chant a mantra. With a sharp sound, his 2 arms split into 4, each wielding a long black blade, hacking madly toward Van Tinjiao. Van Tinjiao released a small, icy blue shield that transformed into a wall of ice, standing firm against the onslaught. A moment later, the old monster grew only more ferocious in his assault. Van Tinjiao's face turned deathly pale as the danger mounted. Another moment passed, and she cried out, "Hurry! I can no longer hold him back." Soon, another moment passed, and Van Tinjiao reached her breaking point, prepared to detonate her magical artifact, and perish together with him. At that very instant, from the corner of the room, a surge of incredibly powerful spiritual energy suddenly erupted. I snapped my eyes open, lunging forward like a wild tiger released from its cage, appearing directly before Van Tinjiao. You may now cast your spell in peace. No matter what you see, do not lose your focus. She finally retrieved that precious talisman. A talisman treasure. I have succeeded in delaying him. A mere worm at the 5th level of chi condensation dares to stand in my way. Sooner had he finished speaking than a heavy black blade swung down toward my head. My gaze remained icy. With a flick of my finger, 36 flying fire needles instantly wove into a net, firmly parrying the blade. The old monster flew into a rage, chanting incantations as his forearms split again, transforming into 8. Die. 8 black blades descended from every direction like a meat grinder. I did not retreat, instead chanting the incantation to activate my silver armor. No sooner had the blinding silver armor formed than 8 waves of blade chi thundered down upon me. The armor held for only a heartbeat before shattering into pieces. The 4 remaining waves of blade chi struck my body with ruthless force. I spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, yet I persisted, funneling all my remaining spiritual power and consciousness into the 36 flying fire needles before me. As the final wave of blade chi descended, I collapsed heavily to the ground, unable to move a muscle. Yet the 36 flying needles emitted a blinding crimson glow, merging into a single massive sharp red needle. It surged forward aggressively toward the old monster. Terrified, the old monster snatched the black jade spider, pulling it forward to serve as a shield. With a wet thud, the sharp needle pierced through the spider and struck the center of the old monster's chest. The monster's entire body of black bones transformed into tentacles, tightly ensnaring the needle, resulting in a fierce stalemate. At that very moment, a terrifyingly scorching aura, capable of incinerating all things, suddenly locked onto the old monster. What? Above the stone hall, a phantom image of a colossal firebird appeared, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. With a single dive, a torrent of flames pierced through the layer of black bones, accompanied by a soul-piercing, inhuman shriek from the old monster. In an instant, the corpse and the old monster's soul were incinerated into ashes. The entire stone hall sank into a deathly silence. I struggled to sit up and swallowed a recuperation pill, watching warily as Wen Xingjiao sat collapsed on the ground, her spiritual energy completely exhausted. An hour later, I reluctantly stood up, intending to depart quietly. Stop right there. I silently gripped my last flying needle, my expression unchanging. Fellow Taoist, is there something you require? Hand over that circular metal disc to me. This item does not belong to you. Suppressing my anger, I gave a cold laugh and calmly recounted the entire ordeal. How Chen Wang and Wang Yue had attempted to rob me, only to be slain in return. After listening, a look of disbelief crossed Wen Xingjiao's face. She stepped forward to inspect my identity medallion, and stood rooted to the spot for a long time. I promised you this when I called for help, and furthermore, you played a role in slaying that demonic cultivator. Since that is the case, I will temporarily cease my pursuit regarding junior brother Chen. However, once the circular metal disc leads us out of this place, it must be handed over to the sect. Having said that, I dragged my severely wounded body and quickly left the stone hall to continue gathering medicinal herbs. 2 days later, I reached the stone gate, where Wen Xingjiao was already waiting. Seeing me arrive, she placed a spirit stone into the crevice and reached out to retrieve the circular metal disc from the water-retaining wall. She intended to return to the sect with me to report the events. I was concerned that my medicinal herbs would be exposed, and even more fearful that the secret of the spiritual soil would be revealed and subsequently stolen by others. Senior sister, the disc has already been given to you. Please report back on your own, but I ask that you do not mention me. I too shall keep the events that transpired here a secret. Wen Xingjiao looked deep into my eyes, realizing that I wished to avoid unnecessary trouble. She activated her Dharma artifact, transforming into a streak of light as she flew away. I wandered outside for several days, confirming it was safe before returning quietly to the Vong Tich residence. In the world of cultivation, one should not flaunt their wealth. Remaining hidden is the true path to survival. The arduous days in Sunset Gorge are finally coming to an end. I planted over 1,000 of the cheapest jade Bodhi trees in my backyard, intending to conceal the corner where that peerless spirit fruit grew. Yet, I never expected a giant bird perched upon the cliff to discover it. Just as the spirit fruit was about to be snatched away, I decisively launched a flying needle to strike the beast down. The reason so many demonic beasts have been coming to steal my treasures lately is that the fruit I am cultivating is a 9-leaf sun-grazing fruit. Consuming it can cleanse one's marrow, temper one's bones, and cause one's cultivation to skyrocket. As the fruit nears maturity, its extraordinary aura can no longer be concealed, causing the spirit beasts throughout the back mountain to stir with uncontrollable desire. The only solution is to find a high-grade concealment formation to mask its fragrance. However, I have been trapped in this Wulong Valley for 3 years, and my pockets are cleaner than my face. I cannot afford even a single formation flag. It seems I have no choice but to go to the bounty hall and risk my life for spirit stones. I then arrived at the bounty hall, standing before that massive bounty board, carefully inspecting the listings. Excuse me, senior brother. May I ask how one might go about contacting the Immortal Fairy Shuangyu? Junior brother, what did you just say? You wish to meet Immortal Fairy Shuangyu? Does one simply walk up to Immortal Fairy Shuangyu whenever one desires? However, if you can complete the bounty task she has posted, perhaps you might gain an audience. Is there no other way? Immortal Fairy Shuangyu acts with great eccentricity. She possesses no fixed cave dwelling, and her whereabouts are shrouded in mystery. To find her, one must complete the bounty task she has issued. A fox demon is wreaking havoc at Baihua Mountain. Those who have gone to suppress it have either perished or been severely wounded. Yet this is the only task available to accept. Wealth and glory are found within danger. I raised my hand and hurled a ferocious fireball in that direction. To think you remain conscious. Why were you not ensnared by my illusion technique? Boy, did you truly survive by mere luck? This disciple has completed the demon hunting task. Hurry and bring the demon's corpse to Wangyu Peak. I shall wait for only one incense stick's time. I will not tarry beyond that. It is indeed her. She looks somewhat familiar. I recall now. You appear to be the Xianmiao's disciple I once guided during your initiation. Senior Fairy, you actually remember such a trivial matter? This junior is truly honored. And Senior Fairy, this junior has a favor to ask of you. I wonder if the reward items from this monster hunting mission can be exchanged for a formation flag with concealment and illusion effects. Formation flags with illusion effects are far more valuable. If I were to exchange them like this, would I not be at a great disadvantage? If I may be frank, Senior Fairy, this junior is in urgent need of this item. Therefore, if Senior Fairy would be so kind as to agree, this junior is willing to compensate with some additional spirit stones. Very well, you and I can be considered to have a bond of fate. Take this illusion formation flag. Many thanks, Senior Fairy. If I recall correctly, you were the immortal cat sent by a sect called the Wu Gate. What coincidence. A few days ago, while returning to my hometown, I saw a few people claiming to be from the Wu Gate, who seemed to be seeking help from the Wulong Valley. I wonder if they have already departed by now. Upon return to Wangji residence, I followed the instructions of the Twin Moon Fairy, planting the 3 small flags outside the nursery, and channeled a trace of magic power into them. The nursery before my eyes immediately vanished, and not even a trace of its scent remained. Finally, I am safe. I only wish to focus on my cultivation and avoid becoming entangled in worldly affairs, yet I seem to have a lingering connection with this Wu Gate. Practitioners of immortality value karma. A high-level expert like the Twin Moon Fairy would not mention this without reason. Could it be that she is subtly reminding me of this karmic bond? Very well, I shall go and investigate. Brother, thank you for your assistance. I am Gongsun, a member of the Wu Gate. Brother, do not concern yourself with me any longer. You must leave. Our Wu Gate has many enemies, and they will be here soon. I fear you will be implicated. It is my fellow junior sister, Shue'er. Taoist friend, to which cultivation sect do you belong? To use a high-grade flying needle, yet it is not a magical artifact of the 5 great sects. This person is likely a rogue cultivator. His cultivation at the early stage of Foundation establishment makes him an opponent not easily dealt with. Gongsun, step back. Taoist friend, I am a disciple of the Wulong Valley. The 5 great cultivation sects of our kingdom have always stood united against outsiders. You and I have only met by chance. Is there really a need for this? Are you afraid? Very well, if you do not wish to fight, hand over your storage bag, and I will let you go immediately. In the world of cultivation, strength is the only true law. Those who do not understand this will surely perish. This brat's cultivation base is clearly a level lower than mine, yet he easily slaughtered my prized spirit beasts while I was distracted. Is that all you have? Rest easy. Senior brother, you are Sect Master Ngo Than Hoyen. Sect Master Ngo Than Hoyen is on the verge of death. It has only been 3 or 4 years. With the cultivation and prowess of Sect Master Ngo Than Hoyen, what kind of catastrophe could have possibly befallen the O-Sect to lead to such a state? Carrying these doubts, I rushed to the O-Sect, and seeing the desolation before me, I could not help but feel a deep sense of sorrow. Back then, to obtain the Oolong Len, I had traveled here once alongside Ngo Than Hyen. I still remember clearly that the O-Sect was teeming with disciples, a scene of such prosperity, yet now one can barely find a living soul. Where is Ngo Than Huyen? Immortal Master Lai, the sect master, has remained within the forbidden grounds, forbidding anyone from approaching. I then headed straight for the darkness. This place remains as pitch black as ever. From afar, I could only see a faint shadowy figure with black bones submerged in the pond. The physical body of a mortal cannot withstand the powerful spiritual sense of a cultivator. This is a forbidden possession technique of the demonic path. Get out here at once. Fellow Taoists, do not kill me. I am willing to hand over all my secret techniques and treasures. I only beg that you grant me a path to survival. This demonic art is truly treacherous. To spare his life would undoubtedly lead to unforeseeable consequences. You shall not die in peace. In the name of the Heavenly Ghost Royal Clan, I curse you. Upon your death, the Heavenly Ghost King shall descend. He will exterminate your entire clan, imprison your soul, and refine your primordial spirit so that you may neither live nor die. For the sake of the immortal path, my obsession was too deep. That old Taoist saw that I lacked an immortal root, but possessed a rare yin extremis body. Under the ravages of my inner demons, I allowed him to seize the opportunity to infiltrate and take control of my mind. For the sake of an elusive empty immortality, mortals can become this insane, going so far as to cast away their own lives. This world of cultivation is truly cruel. Someone has arrived. Let us go out and see. Take these 2 bottles of medicinal pills. One treats internal and external injuries, while the other serves as an antidote for various poisons. Keep them with you, young friend. Just now I sensed a lingering yin energy in this area, but it has vanished. Surely it was you who took action. May I ask which sect you hail from? Greetings, Master. I am Yang Fan, a disciple of the Wulong Valley, so you are a junior from the Wulong Valley. I am Mingpu of the Taiyan Temple. I am traveling to propagate the Buddha Dharma, and having sensed the yin energy of the ghost sect, I came specifically to investigate. However, I notice a dark mark manifesting between your brows, which is quite unusual. It appears that in the process of resolving the situation, you encountered significant trouble. The disciples of Taiyan Temple are truly as legendary as the texts describe. Your perception is extraordinary. It seems the curse left behind by the Black Eagle was not merely a fabrication. May I seek your guidance, Master Mingpu? Do you know how I might rid myself of this dark mark upon my brow? While I can identify its origin, I do not possess the means to dispel it here and now. To remove this dark mark, you must journey to my Taiyan temple within the span of 1 year. There are masters within the temple who can assist you in purging it. I am grateful for your guidance, Master. Within the year, I shall certainly pay a visit to Taiyan temple to seek your assistance. Master, please wait. Might I ask if you are truly from the Taiyan temple? I wish to enter the path of Buddhism. Would you be willing to take me with you? A pure yin constitution, yet possessing no immortal roots. This is indeed a rarity in this world. What is your name? Wu Qingxuan. Very well, you may join my Taiyan temple. Miao Cui, you will no longer be alone on this journey. Gongsun, from this day forward, I entrust the Wu sect to you. I hope that under your guidance, the Wu sect can reclaim its former prosperity and glory. Yang Fan, my deepest thanks. This expression of gratitude carried the weight of so much unsaid. There is no need for such formalities. The path of cultivation is inherently solitary, and the journey ahead can only be walked by your own efforts. With the affairs of the Wu sect settled, I did not tarry and returned directly to Wulong Valley. As the sunset gorge appeared before me, I suddenly sensed an unfamiliar presence, which sent a jolt through my heart. Why is there an unfamiliar aura? Has someone intruded upon my cultivation cave? The very thing I feared most has finally come to pass. This senior brother, this sunset gorge is desolate, and the spiritual energy is thin. Is there actually someone living in such a place? I had assumed the owner of this place had returned. It turns out it was merely a fellow disciple who discovered this place by chance, just as I did. Moreover, his cultivation is only at the 8th level of qi refining. I am a deacon of the Baiji Hall, dispatched here specifically to inspect the herbal cultivation. Junior brother, do not interfere. Leave this place at once. The people of Baiji Hall are truly absurd. The secluded herb garden of Wulong Valley has not been visited by anyone from the Baiji Hall for years. This man is clearly lying to me. I would not dare to disturb you. Please continue your work, senior brother. I was merely passing by, driven by curiosity, and shall take my leave immediately. His cultivation has actually reached the 10th level of qi refining. I must handle this with extreme caution. Tell me, junior brother, why have you not yet departed? Senior brother, you should come and look at this. It seems there is something here. Senior brother, what are you doing? Senior brother, what are you doing? If I do not strike first, the situation will turn grave. I was kind enough to let you leave, but you refuse to listen. Since you insist on courting death, then do not leave at all. Die. He has returned. It seems he intends to silence me to keep his secret. My spiritual power has been greatly depleted by that fireball technique. A truly cunning calculation. Illusionary light formation. It is fortunate that I possess the concealment formation taught to me by the Shuangyu Immortal. If the 9-leaf ink sun fruit were to be exposed, those who would come for it today would surely be far more formidable than a mere 10th level qi refining cultivator. Upon returning to my quarters, I took out the storage bag and the spirit beast pouch belonging to the Yoshu sect cultivator. Inside, there were over 20 low-grade spirit stones, a manual on beast taming and various other artifacts. I decided that before the 9-leaf ink sunfruit ripens, I shall not leave Wulong Valley to avoid any unforeseen complications. Taking advantage of the fact that I still possessed over a dozen bottles of essence-cleansing pills, I once again shut myself away from the world, focusing entirely on cultivating the Sijiao Xian technique. Time passed swiftly. Half a year later, after consuming nearly 70 bottles of essence-cleansing pills in one go, I finally achieved a breakthrough to the 9th level of qi refining. My senses have become this acute. This is the true state of the 9th level of qi refining. It is almost ripe. Now let me test the strength of the 9th level of qi refining, transforming water into blades. I have only grasped the superficial essence of this technique. However, the Taishuan concentrated light formation seems to have become flimsy in comparison, and it is with the Zhuji upper mirror, one can wield everything from heavy broadswords and blades to oversized artifacts with complete ease. I only channeled a mere fraction of my energy, yet it could already serve as a lethal close combat weapon. What of the ice arrow technique then? It could indeed be transformed naturally. The manifestations of Taoist cultivation are vast and unpredictable. A surprise close-range strike with a flying sword is bound to yield miraculous results. Before I knew it, I had spent the entire night cultivating these techniques. Another day passed, and I rode my Dharma artifact toward the Spirit Medicine Garden. This was my first visit since entering Wulong Valley. Disciple Yang Fan greets the venerable uncle. Since this is your first time, the fee is 1 low-grade spirit stone per hour. You may browse at your leisure. If you need anything, simply exchange sect contribution points or spirit stones for a copy. After searching for an hour, let alone finding a pill formula for cultivation beyond the 9th level of qi refining, there was not even a single recipe for pills comparable to the 8 treasured elixir, a complete waste of a spirit stone. This place is truly barren. Even common medicinal herbs are not fully stocked. It seems I must submit a request to the sect and try my luck at the Xuanpo Medicine Garden.
Scram, scram, scram.
Try your luck at the Xuanpo Medicine Garden. It is nothing more than a wasteland overgrown with poisonous weeds. Are you also eager to rush toward your own deaths? Venerable uncle, may I ask if there are truly any pill formulas here for cultivation beyond the 9th level of qi refining? Of course there are. But how could such high-grade formulas be left carelessly on the first floor? Go up to the 2nd or 3rd floor and search thoroughly. But I will warn you first. Regardless of whether what you find is useful or not a single spirit stone of the required payment shall be spared. And another thing, the 2nd floor is 2 spirit stones per hour, and the 3rd is 4. This old man is clearly committing highway robbery. Venerable uncle, my purse is light. Even the spirit stone for this 1 hour was saved with great difficulty. So I shall pass. Wait, the viewing fee is halved. Regardless of which formula you choose to copy, the required contribution points or spirit stones will be discounted by 30%, not 50. Very well, then I offer my thanks, uncle. Get up there, quickly. A complete recipe for the Foundation Establishment pill? How can this be? Manual. Unexpectedly, it is a rare lightning attribute pill manual. This time, I have truly struck gold. Only when there was nothing left to harvest did I head downstairs to find the senior uncle to make a copy. He collected 4 spirit stones, his expression entirely indifferent, as if the matter had nothing to do with him. This old man must have known what was up there all along. It is no wonder he was willing to let this ancient manual gather dust while concocting these pills. An ordinary pill furnace could not withstand the process. The specialized furnace used previously could not reach the required temperature. Only the heaven-sent spirit fire could perform such refinement. One must take things one step at a time. I will first use the remaining 8 true pills to continue my cultivation. I shall wait until the 9-leaf moying fruit is fully ripened before considering the next step. Half a year later, the fruit finally reached full maturity. I plucked it directly, returned to my chamber to meditate and steady my breath, and then consumed it. For several days, I absorbed the medicinal essence of the moying fruit, drawing ever closer to the 10th level of qi refining. The time has come to depart from Sunset Gorge. Although I am reluctant to leave this place for the sake of my cultivation, and for the sake of greater safety and secrecy, it is truly time to move on. After packing my belongings, I prepared to register at the headquarters before flying directly toward Longxi Mountain. Upon arriving at Longxi Mountain, I headed straight for the deepest part of the range, seeking a jagged, secluded peak where not a single fellow disciple could be found for 100 miles. I carved out a cave dwelling deep within the mountain and set up an illusion formation at the entrance. To better conceal the spirit soil, I resolved to create 2 separate chambers. The outer chamber was as a standard living and cultivation area, while the inner chamber required passing through a winding corridor to reach a small, naturally formed inverted funnel cavern deep underground. After some renovations, I established the spirit soil within this hidden sanctuary. Resting briefly, I decided to take on another bounty mission, aiming to acquire a set of formation flags to cast a barrier that would perfectly shroud the corridor and the entirety of the inner chamber. I then retrieved the storage bag belonging to the 10th level chi refining disciple I had encountered previously, and without a hint of hesitation, I claimed nearly 100 low-grade spirit stones for myself. Immediately thereafter, I flew to the bounty hall. Upon arriving at the bounty hall, I deliberated carefully and decided to accept the mission rewarding the Chaos 4 image formation. The immense defensive and concealing capabilities of the Chaos 4 image formation were exactly what my inner chamber desperately required. As for this Black Wind Eagle, no matter, I shall make the journey. After finalizing the registration, I flew directly toward Black Feather Mountain. This mountain is shrouded year-round in thick ink-black mist, a place whose resident demonic beasts make even seasoned and chi-refining cultivators pale at the mere mention of its name. Upon arrival, the sounds of an intense battle echoed from deep within the mountain. I immediately held my breath and focused my spirit, stealthily approaching the source. Senior Brother Liu, I never expected you to be such a hypocritical, sanctimonious man. Junior Brother Leng, we are both cultivators. Why bother putting on this facade of nobility? Do you dare claim that you have never killed others to seize their treasures? I, Leng, have indeed done so, but only against the wicked. I have never engaged in such despicable acts as harming a fellow disciple. Liu Yuan, it was my misfortune to have truly sought your friendship in the past. I never imagined that this journey, which you claimed was for the sake of the Songyu Ferry, was actually aimed at my Foundation Establishment Pill. How despicable. The Foundation Establishment Pill and the Songyu Ferry. It seems these two are entangled in a matter of significant interest. However, their cultivation levels are far superior to my own. Be sensible, Junior Brother Leng. Stop struggling in vain. Hand over the Foundation Establishment Pill obediently, and you may spare yourself some unnecessary suffering. Go to hell, Leng Fiyun, now that you are afflicted by my venom. I wonder how long you can hold on. The junior brother hiding over there. I am willing to offer the life-bound black feather of my Black Wind Eagle and 2 mid-grade spirit stones for your assistance. Discovered, are you? Leave him be. You are pinning your hopes on a mere 9th layer chi condensation ant to save you? 2 senior brothers. I am merely passing through and have no intention of causing offense. I shall trouble you no further. Stop right there. Did I give you permission to leave? Senior brother, my medicinal elixir can certainly neutralize your venom, but I require your lifebound black feather in exchange. Junior brother, I appreciate the gesture, but the lifebound black feather is no ordinary object. Your cultivation is too low. I fear you lack the strength to protect it, so I cannot give it to you. Here are 2 low-grade spirit stones. Consider them payment for your trouble just now. So, you burn the bridge after crossing it. In the cultivation world, greed truly is the path to destruction. Very well, I shall take my leave. You insolent brat. Junior brother Leng, your ven remains unpurged. Are you truly determined to risk mutual destruction with me? Senior brother Liu, let us end this here. How about we go our separate ways? You may leave, but he cannot. He has ruined my plans and must die. If you insist on obstructing me, then let us suffer the My apologies to you both, but not a single one of you will be leaving here alive today. Junior brother, I have assisted you all this time, yet instead of showing gratitude, you resort to poisonous treachery. How can you be so utterly shameless? The only reason you intervened was because you feared Liu Yuan would kill me, leaving you alone to face him. Yet, it is precisely because of your actions that I have been given this opportunity. As long as you fulfill your promise and hand over the black feather and the 2 middle-grade spirit stones, I shall spare you. What is there to fear? My master is a renowned master of poisons. He can concoct the antidote with ease. Do you truly believe such base, underhanded tactics could ever kill me? Junior brother, give me the antidote first. Once I have truly neutralized the poison, I, your senior brother, will surely present you with your reward with both hands. You have run out of chances. Die. You dare to kill me? Do you not know who my master is? Master, save me. He spoke of treachery only to buy time, hoping to force me to kill a practitioner at the peak of the 12th level of chi condensation, knowing my remaining dharma power would be insufficient. Here are the 2 middle-grade spirit stones and the black feather. I only beg that you grant this senior brother a path to survival. If you had kept your promise from the very beginning, you might still be alive, but now it is far too late. Liu Yuan killed others with such reckless arrogance. His master is surely no ordinary figure, and this storage bag likely bears a tracking mark. I told you long ago, even I cannot see through the depths of that Shuang Yue, yet you harbored such foolish delusions, insisting on capturing that black windhawk just to win her favor. Whoever has killed you, I will never show them mercy. I shall capture them alive and flay them skin from bone. Rest assured and proceed to your reincarnation. For I have placed tracking marks on your protective artifacts and talismans. As soon as he dares to bring them out, he will never escape my pursuit. At this moment, I looked at the 2 storage bags, intending to examine them, yet a sudden flicker of unease rose in my heart, so I ultimately abandoned that idea, and took out only the bag containing the middle-grade spirit stones. Are these truly middle-grade spirit stones? They are indeed extraordinary. It is no wonder one of these can be exchanged for 100 low-grade spirit stones, and this small feather can be traded for a precious magical artifact. I felt a surge of curiosity, holding it in my hand to study it carefully for a long while, but for now, I could discern nothing out of the ordinary. After stowing away the black feather, I prepared to cultivate for a few days before venturing out again. Suddenly, my vision darkened, followed immediately by a sharp stabbing pain between my brows, yet it came and went in an instant, recovering completely after only a few breaths. I hurriedly checked my body with the utmost caution. Once I discovered nothing out of the ordinary, I entered into a state of cultivation. A few days later, I disguised myself and quietly appeared at Yunju Market, frequenting various shops to sell the Xuangang pill, the Red Scale Shield, and the Firecloud Dagger one after another. Afterward, I traveled to another location called Tingxiao Market, where I discreetly sold the more than 100 primary-level talismans I had acquired. The harvest this time was quite bountiful. I tallied the spoils. It amounted total of 320 low-grade spirit stones. Killing to seize treasures, this truly is the fastest way to compete for resources in the world of cultivation. From now on, regardless of how friendly any cultivator appears, I must always keep my guard up. A single fake foundation establishment pill already costs 300 spirit stones, and these 400-plus stones are at most enough for one portion of the medicinal ingredients. If the refinement fails, all my efforts will have been in vain. It seems I must make a trip to the Shuangpo Medicine Garden. After waiting patiently for another half-month, I snuck into the Xianshang Hall to deliver the mission. It's you again? Senior Brother Mo, have you come once more to seek rewards from the Fairy of the Twin Moons? The Fairy of the Twin Moons will not be appearing this time. She is away on official business and has yet to return. This is the small Yila 4-character formation. This is truly a fine item. You are certainly quite lucky. Afterward, I returned to my new cave dwelling. Following the method Senior Brother Mo had instructed, I rotated the gears on the formation disk, and instantly, 5 streaks of light shot out, creating a massive curtain of light that enveloped the entire cave dwelling within. The security and privacy of this new cave dwelling left me completely at ease. By the following day, I hurried to the Baiji Hall, only to learn that to enter the Shuangpo Medicine Garden, one must register in advance, and furthermore 7/10 of any spiritual herbs harvested must be surrendered. The number of disciples registering is truly excessive. They are all lined up to the point where there is no telling when one's turn will ever arrive. If Senior Sister Wen Xinjiao were willing to step forward and assist, perhaps registration would not be necessary. A sharp, stinging pain once again emanated from the center of my brow. It had been approximately a month since that incident. Could it be that the curse cast by that demonic fish truly operated on a time limit, and the deadline was fast approaching? Left with no other choice, I hurried to inquire about the whereabouts of Wen Xinjiao. Senior, might I ask if you know where Senior Sister Wen Xinjiao is currently cultivating? Junior Sister Wen achieved Foundation Establishment 2 years ago. Are you unaware of this? Foundation Establishment, she has succeeded. Junior Marshal Aunt Wen has rendered great service to the sect. Therefore, following her breakthrough, she is currently in charge of guarding the Zhuangpo Herb Garden. If you wish to find her, simply head to the Herb Garden. I had not expected that in the short time we were apart, Senior Sister Wen would have successfully reached the Foundation Establishment stage. But now that she has become a martial aunt, our statuses differ greatly. She may not necessarily be willing to assist me. Regardless, I have no other choice. I will go there and see how things unfold. Several days later, I arrived before that grand and magnificent waterfall. Passing through the falls, the narrow fissure that could once only accommodate one person had now been widened into a proper path. Upon entering, I immediately noticed several disciples standing guard at the end of the passage. Junior brother, please present your entry permit. Senior brother, I do not possess any such permit. I have come here to seek audience with Marshal Aunt Wen Xinjiao. I hope you might relay a message for me. Is that so? You have no permit, yet you intend to have Marshal Aunt Wen grant you special favors? Be off with you. Leave at once. Truly ridiculous. Even now there are still those who dream of profiting from chaos. Senior brothers, I am Yang Fan. I am truly acquainted with Marshal Aunt Wen. I humbly ask you to pass on the message and promise not to make things difficult for any of you. I say, you mere chi condensation 9th layer disciple. Are you not being increasingly insolent? Senior brother Liu, Senior brother Zhang, please come over here. There is a troublemaker here. Drive him away. Are you Junior brother Yang Fan? Without an authorized permit, no one is allowed to enter. You are merely an outer sect disciple, yet you dare claim to be acquainted with Marshal Aunt Wen. Marshal Aunt Wen has issued an order. Those without a permit are forbidden. Senior brothers, I truly do know her. You only need to report that Yang Fan requests an audience. Why waste your breath on him, senior brother? The martial uncle is going to blame us for failing to complete our task again. How audacious. Cease your actions. Martial Uncle Wen's senior sister Hinjiao. What is the meaning of this? Follow me inside. Martial Uncle Hinjiao, the number of disciples applying to the medicinal garden is overwhelming, and I have urgent matters to attend to. I truly cannot afford to wait several years. I have acted shamelessly to beg for your favor, and if I have been abrupt or inconsiderate in my approach, I hope you will not hold it against me. Since you have come to harvest herbs, I will grant you 2 hours. You are forbidden from entering the restricted area deep within the garden, and the quantity harvested must strictly adhere to the sect's regulations. Do not exceed your quota. Many thanks to my uncle for your benevolence. The spiritual energy here is unusually dense. There must be a profound treasure hidden nearby. Something capable of gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It is a sapling of the spirit eye tree. Senior brothers, if you do not summon your spiritual beasts to identify and inspect these herbs, I shall take my leave now. Junior brother Yang is wise. As long as you turn them in voluntarily, there is no need for beast inspections. I appreciate your kind intentions, senior brothers, but I have urgent matters to attend to. Let us meet again another day. Having bid farewell and departed from the Xuanfa medicinal garden, I did not stop for a moment. I flew directly back to Laka Mountain and immediately planted the spirit eye tree sapling into the spiritual soil, then retrieved the black liquid and poured it over the base. Once the spiritual fluid seeped into the soil, a subtle change occurred, as if the sapling showed signs of rapid growth. With a heart filled with apprehension, I planted the young sapling into the spiritual earth. After resting for 2 days, I left Wulong Valley and headed straight for Tai Nam Temple. Benefactor, please halt your steps. To trespass is to trigger the temple's grand protective array, and in the blink of an eye, your life will be forfeited. Little Master, I have traveled from Wulong Valley and have an urgent matter to discuss with Great Master Min Fo. I humbly ask that you inform him. Are you certain you wish to find Martial Uncle Min Fo? Is there something amiss with seeking out Great Master Min Fo? Martial Uncle Min Fo passed away half a year ago. Passed away? How could that be? He was a high monk of your temple in the late stage of foundation establishment. Little Master, some time ago Great Master Min Fo brought 2 women to the temple, one of whom was a mortal named Nothon Toyan. I wonder if she is still within the temple. What is your relationship to Gothon Tuyan? This is not a place for someone of your standing to visit. You are clearly here to stir up trouble. The situation regarding Wu Qingxuan within this temple is far more complex than I had anticipated. Master, you have misunderstood. I am Yang Fan, an official alchemy disciple of Wulong Valley. When Master Mingpu brought Miss Wu here previously, I was entrusted by my elders to provide her with some provisions. My presence at this temple today is merely to deliver messages from her hometown at the request of others. I have no ulterior motives. The messages from her hometown are now nothing more than the demonic obsession our temple is working to suppress. Your arrival at this moment suggests you were sent by the demonic path as a reinforcement. Master, please consider the facts. I am but a disciple at the 9th level of Qi refining. If the demonic path had truly sent me, they would be holding your temple in very low regard. Furthermore, if I truly harbored malicious intent, would I have walked through the main gate in plain sight to seek an audience? Senior Brother Chan, this benefactor truly possesses only the cultivation of the Qi refining stage, and the Wulong Valley medallion at his waist appears genuine. Since he claims to have been brought here by Martial Uncle Ming Pu, perhaps we should lead him to an audience. We might learn the background of that woman before she succumbed to the demonic arts. Very well. Benefactor, please follow us. May I ask, honorable masters, what transgression Miss Wu committed to be labeled a demonic obsession? It is not a matter of transgression, but rather that her body harbors an exceptionally sinister demonic seed. Martial Uncle Ming Pu exhausted his core essence to suppress that surge of demonic energy, leading to his ultimate passing. Now, that woman has been completely consumed by the demonic energy. Her consciousness is no longer lucid, and she is imprisoned at Chaoyin Peak behind the mountain. The elevation of this abbot is likely already at the core formation stage. His power is truly unfathomable. Benefactor, as you hail from Wulong Valley, do you know anything of Miss Wu's origins? Abbot, I only know that Wu Qingxuan comes from a prestigious secular family. It is rumored that her family once saved a wandering cultivator in distress. Perhaps that was the seed of her current calamity. Having heard from you both that Wu Qingxuan has succumbed to the demonic path, I find it difficult to remain indifferent. I possess a calming pill here, left to me by my elders. While it is not a divine elixir, it is potent enough to clear the mind and stabilize the spirit. I wonder if it might be of any benefit to Miss Wu's condition? This pill will certainly not save her life. It serves only as my pass. Once I am infiltrated into the back mountain, I shall find a way. You are most generous benefactor. In that case, let Ming Kong lead you to Chaoyan Peak for a brief visit. However, this is a one-time allowance. Should the woman's demonic nature erupt, do not blame us if you meet your own end. Miss Wu, is the death of Master Ming Pu connected to you? Is it true? The death of Great Master Jin Fo has some connection to me, but I did not kill him. I am merely a mortal. How could I possibly possess such capability? As they say, Great Master Min Fu used a truth mantra before his death, and the person that the mantra pointed to is you, Yang Fan. If others do not trust me, can you not trust me either? What kind of person am I? You know best. Great Master Min Fo was a Buddhist cultivator at the late Foundation establishment stage, while I am but a mortal without the strength to truss a chicken. How could I possibly kill him? Miss Wu, I believe you are not the culprit. Then, can you tell me what truly happened that day? What happened that day, I truly do not know. Ever since I followed Great Master Min Fo to Taiyan Temple, I would go to the Min Fo Hall every day at the hour of the rabbit to listen to his sutra teachings. On the day of the incident, I arrived as usual, but for some unknown reason, I drifted off to sleep while listening to the scriptures. When I awoke, I discovered he had fallen in a pool of blood already dead. That day, there were only you and Great Master Min Fo in the hall. Was there no one else? There was also the simple-minded woman that the Great Master had brought back with him, Miss Diao Kui. Diao Kui is that girl who has an incredibly stiff and peculiar smile. If that is the case, this Diao Cui is also highly suspicious. But the members of Taiyan Temple insist that the truth mantra could not possibly be wrong. Therefore, they remain adamant that I am the killer, possessed by a demonic obsession. Miss Wu, please stay calm. I will have the people of Taiyan Temple search for this Miss Diao Cui. Perhaps the truth will soon be brought to light. Benefactor Yang, how did it go? Senior Wu Qingxuan said. At that time, a person named Diao Kui was also present. I wonder if you, Senior, know where this Diao Kui is currently. That woman came here and speaks nothing but nonsense all day long, but given her cultivation level, she could not possibly have killed Uncle Master Min Fo. Senior, could you take me to meet this Diao Cui? Very well, Benefactor Yang, follow me. Do not kill me, do not kill me, do not come any closer. It was only by accident that I killed him. Why have you all turned into ghosts, and why do you still refuse to spare me? This woman has completely lost her mind, muttering these nonsensical ravings all day long. But with her meager cultivation base, she could never have killed Uncle Master Min Fo. This is a performance disguised to be perfect, too perfect, which paradoxically makes it seem forced. Senior, could you take me to see the Min Fo Hall? Perhaps we will have our answer soon. Senior, is it possible for a mortal to be possessed by a demonic cultivator, and yet mask their aura so subtly that even you could not detect it? That is impossible. If it were a standard possession, we might have misjudged it, but a mortal body possessed by a demon will suffer from severe rejection between the demonic energy and the mortal flesh. It is absolutely impossible to conceal such a thing. Senior, I fear that this time you have truly been deceived. Benefactor Yang, you are only at the qi refining stage, yet you dare to claim with such certainty that you can discern the clues. How certain are you? 70 to 80%. We only need to go to Yinfeng Dynasty for a final confirmation. But I required you, Senior, to completely deactivate the light prison formation. I never expected that the one who killed Great Master Min Fo was actually... Miss Wu, since you have already stepped onto the path of the Immortals, and are capable of cultivation, why must you resort to murdering Great Master Min Fo? Yang Fan, I have underestimated you. I have completely underestimated you. Yang Fan, how on earth did you discover that it was me? I believed that I had performed my deception without a single flaw. The flaw lay within your own words. While in the prison, you said to me, before Ming Pu died, he employed a mantra technique. Afterward, I consulted Master Ming Kong. From the top to the bottom of Tainan Temple, not a single person spoke of it. Even I did not utter a single word about it just now. So the problem lies here. If you were truly unconscious, how could you know that Ming Pu used a mantra technique before his death? I was the one who killed Ming Pu. I was possessed by that demonic fish. Not only did I obtain a portion of its memories, but I also fully awakened my extreme yin physique. Yang Fan, do you know what it feels like for a mortal with no attachments to suddenly possess peerless cultivation? I utilized the secret arts of the Heaven Ghost sect, secretly absorbing the original spirits of the monks to sustain my power. My cultivation progressed 1,000 miles in a single day. But that old man Ming Pu discovered the anomaly. He grew suspicious of me, and I had no other choice. I had no choice but to kill him. To attain this cultivation body, you have endured over a decade of suffering as a mortal. To exchange it for this momentary path of cultivation, to hear the Tao in the morning, and to be content even if I die by nightfall. Yang Fan, do you also believe that I deserve to die? Do not waste your effort. I have no regrets. Yang Fan, thank you for allowing me to feel a glimmer of warmth in this cold life. You hold me in your heart, and I have no regrets. Meeting you was a stroke of fate. You must live well, and forget me. Miss Wu, rest assured. I have accepted this bond between us. I have also accepted this fate of yours. If the path immortality is heartless, then I shall